Hello again, friends! And you are our friends. Can you hear that noise? And welcome to another edition of Jim Cornette's Drive Thru right here on another beautiful day. I'm your host, the great Brian Last. Who knows what we have in store for you today with this man, the leader of the cult of Cornette. 30 seconds and right to him, Mr. Jim Cornette.
I don't know if they can hear those noises, Brian, but when you growled out, "Hello again, Fred," Harley Quinn popped up from her nap and scoffed and turned over in position. It's okay, sweetie. The bad man won't hurt you. He's not here. She could hear you.
Don't call me the bad man. What the hell is that?
Call me. That sounds like a cool song. They call me the bad man. But no,
It sounds like a really cool song, Jim. Do you have any more lyrics to it?
Well, I'm workshopping it. And that could be entrance music for some bad man.
Bad man for a bad man, clearly.
We'd have to find one of those. Not searching the wrestling programs. Anyway, I'm trying to say you upset Harley. She's up here with me. I'm keeping an eye on her because she's got the puny tummy today. She's been a little squirty. Having a little fudge factory going on. So we're keeping an eye on her.
Is there a secret to getting fudge out of the rug?
Well, no, she has a nice place. She goes up here. She's not uncontrollable. She has to go, but she knows that she has to go and she can go to the place that she needs to go to go.
With no mistakes? There were never any mistakes?
Well, every once in a while, Princess Poopin' House would come up every so often when we would turn our backs on her for an extended period of time, and it was our own fault. In the middle of the night, if she wanted to get up and sleep on the floor instead of in the bed, and then, we didn't get the signals or whatever. But nevertheless, you're sidetracking me here from this important breaking news update.
Oh.
What I'm saying is she's got a big, giant, humongous puppy pad in my spacious bathroom in my office, which has a tile floor, in which I keep remarkably clean for an elderly gentleman. And she goes in there and she does her business while she's up here, whether it's the peeing or the pooping. We can do this podcast for 4 hours. I don't even turn around to see it. When I go in there, she's walked in there from wherever she was. She's done her business and she's come back out. She's the best behaved little baby in the world, aren't you, sweetie? Yes, you are. I love you, baby. They got the Tales of Wyatt Earp showing on FETV, F-E-T, Family Entertainment Television in the afternoon. The 50s TV show, and it's Wyatt Earp, brave, courageous, and bold. Long live his fame, and long live his glory, and long may his story be told. So when she goes out to poop, because now there's a dog on either side of us.
It's like the OK Corral.
The neighbors got dogs.
You got the OK Corral out there.
Well, there you go. So when she goes out to poop to spread her smell around, I sing Harley Quinn, brave, courageous, and bold. Long live her fame, and long live her glory, and long may her poopy be smelled.
All right, that's on FETV.
1 o'clock in the afternoon, Eastern time. We're prognosticators again. Did you hear about this? We predict the future. We actually command the future. You and I, Brian, by virtue of our Karnak-like powers of mental prognostication, and also us having the big heads now, it looks like that space alien from that cool first season episode of the Outer Limits. He had the big fucking skull head with the giant brain. We will things into happening now. We don't even predict them. We just say something's going to happen and it happens. Look at the downfall of AEW. But did you hear about the bull incident? Did you hear about the bullshit that went on?
As soon as it happened, it was sent to me to the point where I thought, oh, this must be some old video. I was like, oh shit, it just happened. We just talked about this.
Yes. What was it? A day? Was it 24 hours before you, for some unknown reason, decided you wanted to watch people riding bulls on television?
I didn't want to watch. It wasn't my choice. It just happened to be on TV before I turned the channel.
Well, and then you were shocked and amazed that this type of thing went on, and I said, "Oh no!" So these bulls, they jump up in the stands. You ought to see this bullshit because there've been videos of this. But as soon as we broadcast this to the world, a bull. Did you hear what the bull's name was? You know, they got strange names for these bulls these days. Costello, would you like to hear them?
I think I saw what it was. What was it?
Party Bus. The bull named Party Bus got pissed off, and rightfully so, at this activity that the humans were engaging in, and leaped over the goddamn railing into the stands and straight through the breezeway and out into the concession area. And people clambering and scattering to get through the stands. And then outside, there's some people running from a fucking bull. Now, the video has no audio. The one that I saw, it's video, a security camera, I don't know what the fuck, of a bull running through a sparsely occupied concession area at the fairgrounds, but still there are human beings running from this bull. One would think they would be screaming, "The bull's loose! The bull's got to get out of the way of the bull!" But instead, it comes upon this group of people having an idle conversation, not
just
even looking in the direction, just standing there.
Not even moving. There are other people running around. They're just standing there.
So one of them was sipping out of a coffee cup, I saw.
I watched this over and over again to see what they were doing. Why are they just standing there?
Why they weren't even transfixed by the oncoming presence of this deadly fucking bull. They were just standing there having a fucking casual conversation, oblivious to the fact that a 12,000-pound bull with a big hump on his back was bearing them down. And the bull takes this motherfucker in the red shirt and gets up under him with his head.
It's a girl. No, I think it was a girl.
Was it? Well, you can't tell now.
Or a woman, I should say.
It might have been, but where those horns went, I don't know.
Hey, hold on. Who goes to a bull event and says, "Let me wear my red shirt"? Who the hell does that?
I just thought that's the only reason I knew, because the red shirt stood out from everybody else. Then you could see the red shirt flying up in the air. I forgot about the red fucking flag and the bull. Well, isn't it ironic? Like rain on your wedding day, like when the bull gores you anyway.
I saw multiple camera angles of this, and it's incredible. Like I said, I was transfixed because they're just having this conversation. Wow. They don't even move. And then the bull just takes this woman, and it's almost like she's a dummy. It doesn't seem like a real human body because of just how quick and powerful. And
he flipped her up, and then she spun around in the air and landed on his fucking horns, and he flipped her around again before she hit the ground. And it's like just
and one of the videos
effortless.
One of the videos showed him running off and like going into the parking lot. And then you just see guys on horses with lassos running after him.
What the fuck? Holy God. Who's going to stop that sumbitch with a fucking rope? But here's the thing. I didn't see the multiple camera. You got to I only saw the overhead like security camera footage. I need to see more angles of this. But how, again, was it a group of, bless them, deaf people that had come to the rodeo? How do you not feel the goddamn bull on the ground before that happens?
If you're deaf, that also is the excuse for why when your friend said, "Why are you wearing a red shirt?" you didn't answer over and over again. I've got good tickets for the bullfight. Oh, you're wearing a red shirt.
And that's what where was Darby Allin in all of this? He could have got hit by a bull named Bus.
Some guy tweeted me like a big defense of rodeo and how it's the greatest sport and people love it. Everyone who goes loves it. There's like a small subsection who don't. I said,
people that go to Trump rallies love them. That doesn't mean that kind of conduct should be, fucking ratified.
He's listing all the reasons why people love bull. Like, what about the running of the bulls through the concession stand? That seems like a bit of an issue.
Yeah.
Oh, the popcorn.
Because. And so the bulls was the news not aware of this at this point, that there was now a bull in the parking lot? How did we not see the potential capture. Maybe he's still running around. Don't wear red in Oregon.
I saw videos all the way in the back because it was all in the, like, it was a dark parking lot with very little lighting. You just see the bull going, and then you see the guys with the hats and the lassos on horses running after him. Because you're thinking, how do they stop one of these things? I guess they do exactly what they do. It's not ringside. What do they call it in the middle of the bull ring? Yeah, bullside.
The bullside. No, the cowboys that roped steers and bulls and things out on the open range. I have the concept of this. I've seen it in westerns on television. I've never seen it actually done. But they don't have concrete or asphalt, and they don't have cars in the way of the shit, right? It's not like a obstacle course fucking bull roping when you're doing it out there. There's not a bunch of cars parked around it. How are you going to maneuver the horses around the cars in the parking lot to rope the bull who's not wanting to be roped?
Oh, let me make a correction,
what a fucking Chinese fire drill.
This seems like the time to make the correction. Because I heard from a lot of people when we watched the bullfight, when I watched it and tried to describe it to you, I didn't know what the women were throwing the rope around. They just ran away with the rope. Baby calves. I thought it may be a deer or something. It's baby cows that they're doing this to. And some guy got on me about it. I'm like, we didn't do any calf roping on Long Island. I'm sorry. I don't know what this is.
Well, why would you want to fuck with the poor baby cows? What did they?
There was a guy with a pony on Sunrise Highway in Freeport. That's it. There was nothing else. So.
But fuck the women fucking with the baby cows. Because I can understand maybe not having a lot of sympathy for a full-grown fucking cow. They're fairly stout, could take care of themselves if riled, but a little baby.
Do you think you could become a draw in this world of bullshit? Really, when you think about it, you think you could become a draw if you're going after one of these like baby calves and you get off the horse and you take care of it, you turn heel by not.
Yeah, you turn heel by petting it and fucking fondling it and giving it some water.
You get the booze, but you start yelling back and you start building on that. You go to the event to boo the pacifists in the middle of the bullfight, bull riding, and calf roping.
Well, so much for the bull.
I have some more news from the real world before we get to wrestling because we have so much fun with this stuff. Jim, a few stories. I have this one from the Washington Post here. The Four Top singer accuses hospital of racism, putting him in a straitjacket.
What?
Have you been following this story?
No, I have. Not only have I not been following it, but it has escaped me. And apparently one of the Four Tops has escaped somewhere. Which one?
Well,
what's happening?
This article is by Leo Sands, and for the record, there is one of the original Four Tops who's still alive, but like a lot of classic doo-wop groups or Motown groups, they still tour with the one active member, well, one living member, and replacement.
And the rest of them have been replaced. Is this Sugar Pie or Honey Bunch?
I'm not sure, but it's probably a very nice show, and he probably has a very nice voice. But here's the article. The lead singer of the Four Tops Motown band is suing a Michigan hospital and two... I already saw this story, I'm sorry. And two staff members alleging racial discrimination after they wrongfully treated him as if he was mentally ill.
What?
When he identified himself as a member of the group. Alexander Morris, who is black, said in his lawsuit that staffers at Southeast Michigan Ascension Macomb Oakland Hospital.
Now, wait, let's make sure where the hate mail goes to the right place. What's the name of this fucking joint?
Michigan's Ascension Macomb Oakland Hospital assumed he was delusional after arriving at the hospital in an ambulance with clear symptoms of cardiac distress.
Oh my God.
In April 2023.
He's having a heart attack. And he tells them that, hey, my name is so-and-so. I'm a member of the Four Tops. And they put the heart attack patient in a straitjacket.
After identifying himself as a member of the Four Tops, said Morris, 53, workers denied him medical treatment by removing him from oxygen and instead ordered him to undergo a psychological evaluation and placed him in a restraining jacket. After 90 minutes, the singer was released from restraints when he was able to show a video of himself performing at the Grammys.
Oh my God.
To a nurse, the lawsuit alleges.
Oh shit.
This is insane, isn't it?
What do you think she then said to this guy in a straitjacket that she's seeing perform as a member of the Four Tops in Las Vegas?
Can you imagine you're having a heart attack, you go to the hospital, and I don't know how it comes up. Hey, sir, tell us a little bit about you, whatever it may be. I'm the lead singer of the Four Tops. And maybe their argument's going to be, we didn't know the Four Tops were still performing. I mean, I don't know what your argument could be, but it shouldn't be, lock him up, put him in a straitjacket.
Well, besides that, I mean, as you mentioned, yes, we know that everybody from, KC and the Sunshine Band to the Four Tops have changed members, especially the Motown soul groups, because, like if you've got one of them alive in a lot of cases due to age, it's miraculous they can still perform. And they fill in the fucking Leonard Skinner, Jesus. So you don't.
Bill Haley's Comets.
Okay, I didn't know any of them were still around.
I think there may be a comet left.
Well, one Haley's Comet. But the point is, this isn't racial discrimination as much as is it medical malpractice, because even if the guy says I'm fucking Julius Caesar, isn't he still having a heart attack? And so maybe that's what you don't stop treatment because he says, fucking Rick Finch don't want to go on the road anymore, so Harry Wayne Casey got a whole new band or whatever the fuck, right? I don't understand. This is medical malpractice.
Let me scroll
regardless
down a
of what, make sure the guy's not having a heart attack. And then...
Yeah, well, let me jump in. He's suing for at least $75,000 in damages, alleging he was misdiagnosed and mistreated because of his race by the hospital, a nurse, and a security guard. And then it says here that when he went in, hospital employees wrongfully assumed he was mentally ill and made the decision to remove him from oxygen and pursue a psychiatric evaluation instead. That's scary that could happen.
It did. Now, wait,
that's
when he came
frightening in, that could happen.
Does it say there in that crack reporting?
Well, here you go. When he tried to resolve the mistake by asking to show identification, the lawsuit alleges, a white security guard told him to, quote, sit his black ass down. There you go. There you go. That's why he's going to
win. Now it's medical malpractice and racial discrimination. But I'm saying, how did he arrive there? Did he come in an ambulance? He
was in an ambulance, I believe. After Morris showed a nurse a video of his performance at the Grammys, the lawsuit said the nurse realized he was a member of the Four Tops, and the nurse went and got the emergency room doctor to inform him. The emergency room doctor returned and said he was canceling the psychological evaluation.
He should have taken it himself.
The lawsuit said that Morris was ultimately diagnosed with a heart issue requiring a potential transplant and pneumonia, that he suffered 3 seizures during the hospital stay.
Oh.
As an apology, Morris said, oh my God, the hospital offered him a $25 gift card for a supermarket, which he declined. Oh my God. I'm sorry.
Wait, hold on.
It's just so ridiculous.
What was the amount that you just said there that he's suing for?
He's suing for at least $75,000 in damages.
At least who the fuck is advising this fucking guy? Wait a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are ever taken to a hospital and put into a straitjacket instead of receiving medical treatment because you are a famous person, or at least you're somebody that they don't think you are, I know who you can call.
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to see show or two. Skills to the rest.
Boy, howdy, go no further than, what is this guy's name again? The new top, Brian, what's his name?
The lead singer of the Four Tops, maybe I'm going to get locked up. Of the Four
Jack
Tops
Pepper
Motel
used
Band.
to tour with the Four Taps.
Alexander Morris.
Alexander Morris. Stephen P. New needs to call you, because you are a fucking idiot. If you're suing this hospital.
He's been through a lot. It's
no, $75,000. But you know how much Stephen P. New could get this guy in his sleep in Beckley, West Virginia, much less goddamn. Where is this place located?
This was in Michigan.
What part of Michigan?
The Ascension Macomb Oakland Hospital, somewhere near Macomb or Oakland, if those are towns, I would presume.
Well, I think that's counties, and I think it's around Detroit. And my God, Stephen P. New, Alexander will be the new chief of staff of that hospital if Stephen P. New gets a hold of him, or he gets a hold of Stephen P. New. Because how is that not a multi-million-dollar lawsuit? I come in, I've got pneumonia and heart issues, and I come in an ambulance. And just because I say I'm the lead singer of the Four Tops, which I really am, and can prove it if you'll shut the fuck up, you're fucking putting me in a straitjacket? And this is medical malfeasance at its most masterful. This is an open and shut, that's a slam dunk, as they say in the legal profession. How the fuck, 75? I'll buy his case for $75,000. I will write him a check right now for $75,000 and buy his case, and I'll hire Stephen P. New, and he'll get me $3 million.
I don't think it works that way.
You can't buy and sell these things?
No, it's not like a wrestler's contract.
Well, shit. As Mama Cornette used to say.
The hospital's defense is going to be, last week we had 3 Smokey Robinsons and 2 David Ruffins come in.
But that Eddie Kendricks, he broke some shit.
With his voice, with his high-pitched voice.
Yes. Every window in the fucking operating room is shattered.
Stephen P. New, 877.
Oh, yes. Well, I think, 877-50-STEVE is the number for you to call Stephen Alexander. Well, no, don't call him Alexander. His name is Stephen. But I'm saying, Alexander, call 877-50-STEVE to get a hold of Steve to smarten your ass up.
How did you skip right past the idea? Because this is incredulous to me. They gave him a $25 gift card for a supermarket.
What the fuck? It was already past
they wanted
the point
to.
of...
He declined it. He smartly declined it.
I'm sure he did. Declined up their ass. Their ass became a broken ATM machine, and it declined it. What the fuck? How could you? No, I am incensed that this fucker's trying to let him off with $75,000. There's got to be some punitive issues going on here. They have got to be punitized. You know what it means to be punitized in court, don't you, Brian? Now, I'm a small-town bird lawyer, and I know all the verbiage. When you're punitized on top of the damagized, that means you get 3 times the money. And in cash.
You know, again...
And you get to sleep with the other guy's wife.
Again, I don't think any of this, I'm pretty certain none of this is actually what happens. But Stephen P. New could be the man for you. NewLawOffice.com.
Yeah, well, that goes without saying.
Hey, one more thing before we have to get to that wrestling stuff.
Yeah.
You've been following what's going on with Joey Chestnut.
Oh, I've got mixed emotion. You're not the only one with mixed emotions. You're not the only one adrift on this ocean. Because in a way, I want to support Joey Chestnut, the hero that he is to gluttons all over the world. The fucking superhuman effort that he made and continues to make to expand his innermost bowels for our entertainment and pleasure, and at the same time brought back to the United States an honor like the mustard yellow belt back from the evil Japanese menace of Kobayashi. But
who was also kicked out of
who was also banned
eating.
because we know that the international hot dog eating people and the international competitive eating people are very litigious. But I wanted to be on Joey's side because he did all that stuff, and even switching brands from Nathan's to, I would have gone with him somewhere. But a fucking veggie dog, that's not only un-American, that's some bullshit right there. If it's like a low-fat Twinkie. If you can't eat the goddamn fat, don't eat the Twinkie.
You don't turn your back on Nathan's either. If you got Nathan's, you got the best hot dog. Where else are you going to go? Hebrew National? No. Ballpark? No. Nathan's is the one.
Well, no, if Ballpark came in like Tony Khan and Ballpark's father invented a goddamn car part that made him $17 billion and 14 cents, and Ballpark said, Joey Chestnut, we know those people over there are pricks at the other side because they're the only game in town, and if you do anything, if you fart in anybody's general direction, they didn't clear it, they'll fuck with you and run you off, but I'll pay you $2 million a year to just stick some shit down your throat that'll make your ass expand into the Holland Tunnel. All for us. I could go with him. And he could have the ballpark. You could have the ballpark, Frank. It's still a Frank. It may not be the Nathan's Frank, but it's still a Frank. It's still a dog. But then to plant-based material, I'm sorry, I can't cross that bridge.
Hey, listen, this one big eating contest everyone talks about every year, and he was the champion for years and years after Kobayashi got kicked out of the league. This is like Hulk Hogan leaving WWE to go to Herb Abrams. This is a bad move, I think. Although there's a lot of money. So you have that on the other hand. And actually...
But now do we know he's going to get the money? Are they going to be like that optical company in Japan 30 years ago that opened a big promotion and then it was gone? Because Joey was figured in on the other side, but hopefully he's getting his money up front.
And again, for those not knowing of the story, Joey Chestnut is the longtime reigning champion of the Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest. Every year they have an event.
Well, who doesn't know this?
He's the champion, and he signed an endorsement deal with Impossible Foods. You may hear of Impossible Burgers, Impossible this and that.
It's impossible not to hear about them.
Well, they're vegan, so it's not just a competitor, but it's also a competitor.
It's not the same thing. It's a pretender. It's not a warrior. It's an errand boy. How can you have a hot dog that has neither no hot nor no dog?
It also says here in the article I'm reading, this is not the first time the contest has had a falling out with a high-profile eater. Kobayashi, who won the competition for 6 straight years before the rise of Mr. Chestnut, left the contest in 2010 after he refused to sign an exclusive contract with Major League Eating. So it's a WWE kind of situation.
To be quite fair, if you've seen the documentary on him, he's a fucking Looney Tune.
I haven't. There's a documentary on Kobayashi?
Oh my God, yes. Yeah, and he got mentally fucked up over losses, and he's like a fucking competitive eating version of Ronda Rousey. It was fucking with him, and I can't remember all the goddamn particulars. But yeah, he would probably appeal to deal with himself. But Joey's been faithful. But like I said, I could leave with him if it wasn't for this plant-based hot dog thing.
I have an article here from the New York Post. Joey Chestnut reignites Kobayashi rivalry. Actually, I'll just read you the article so I give the news. Chestnut and Kobayashi will face off in a hot dog eating contest to determine who is the greatest Frankfurter eater of all time in a showdown that will stream live on Netflix September 2nd.
Oh,
the
my
streamer
God.
announced. The event, Chestnut versus Kobayashi, unfinished beef.
Well, wouldn't you know who won the pony? As soon as both of them get free of their various guys, but maybe this is why. Maybe Netflix said, "Hey, Joey, to do this thing, we'll give you a couple $1 million," and the other guys weren't going to let him do it. But so he figured he'll get the fucking broccoli dog sponsorship on the side of it as well. Who knows what was the motivating factor in this? So Netflix, Kobayashi, Chestnut. How did the WWE not get this?
Well, it's another interesting move for Netflix. They keep making these interesting streaming moves, just live events, from the Cat Williams comedy thing, the Tom Brady roast, the Tyson Jake Paul fight that's supposed to happen upcoming, NFL games. Very interesting.
You know what would be a wonderful fucking streaming? You mentioned every genre in the world except one. I think there should be live streaming of people having arguments. Besides politics, where they're halfway supposed to try to act like they know what they're talking about and are being civil. I'm talking about people who have a real, just put a goddamn camera in every office building, in the different offices or public places or goddamn even wherever these arguments happen. I know the fans have the cameras, but we got to get a streaming service to wire the public so we can have live fucking arguments. Fuck you. No, fuck you. I think that would be a big hit that has not been fully tapped yet.
Angry debates is something people need, but back to and finishing up with the Joey Chestnut.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're back to Joey and Nathan.
The Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest. Is this an opportunity for them to make a new star?
Oh, is that a question you're asking me, or is that in the article? I thought you were reading the article.
I'm asking you as a booker, as an eater, is this an opportunity for them to make a new star, even bigger and better than Joey Chestnut?
Well, but here's the problem with that. And the problem with that is you can't find a lot of motherfuckers that can eat 65 and 70 fucking hot dogs and buns, even though they dunk them in glasses of water and just tamp them down like fucking mulch around a goddamn tree. You can't find human beings that can do that, obviously, because they've been the only two that can do that. Now, what we need, the woman they had, what was her name? God damn it, the Dragon Lady. She was a little thin.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
She was a little thin woman of Asian persuasion that could eat like fucking 25 or 30 hot, some ridiculous fucking, I mean, that's something. Her jaw looked like that fucking alien in V back in the 80s that opened to take the fucking rodent hole because they were lizard people. Yeah, maybe we need a woman that could eat 40 fucking hot dogs, and then you don't have to worry about whether Joey's eating 75 or not, because it's even more gobsmacking in a repulsive way that this woman can eat 40 of them, unless she looks like goddamn little Lotta, in which case, no, it has to be a thin woman that's good, because they have the same thing with Kobayashi. Where does he put it?
If you go the other way, they've never done that, where it's like the biggest person you can find wins. That's what we need for once.
But see, there's the problem.
And then everyone's chasing the wall.
It's not possible because the fat people have so much fat that their stomachs can't expand. They're against too much pressure. That's why the thinner people have an edge. You don't you know anything, Brian, for heaven's sake?
They should hire you to be a commentator. You're teaching me a lot here.
Well, I could call that sentence. Look at this motherfucker. He's down a wiener or two down his gullet. I'm telling you, I'd be brilliant at that. But nevertheless.
Well, we will see what happens with this story. And now, I'm looking at the latest article. Apparently now the Coney Island Wiener War escalates as Nathan's hot dog eating contest organizer rips Joey Chestnut.
Oof.
So apparently there are hard feelings now, so we don't know if he'll ever return. Chestnut 40 has an estimated net worth of $4 million.
Not bad.
He won the July 4th event in 16 of the past 17 years, wolfing down 62 hot dogs and buns in 2023.
He did 70 the year before. I think it was a little cooler.
All right, well, we'll see what happens. Is this Steve Austin leaving at his peak, or Vern Gagne retiring with the belt?
I think they fucked up. Joey was a star. They'll still do the contest and be on television, but the problem is that now Joey's like some of the guys in the business have been in recent. He's without television, and they don't even have. Because there's only room for one international competitive eating fucking federation or whatever they fucking call them. They don't have competing hot dog eating or really major league eating shows on television, do they? They pretty much got that fucking deal.
Who's going to start up World Championship eating?
That's the question. Where is Ted Turner when you need him? Is Ted still alive? Where is Ted?
He's still alive, but I believe he's not in good health.
Not in good. Well, if he wasn't in good mental state when he fucking bought WCW, so maybe this is a chance for the competitive eaters now.
All right. Well,
Hey, I've got some factoids here, real quick. I just want to mention this.
What's your show?
Because, well, no, it's not. It's your show, and I'm not going to take the blame for it, but I am going to hijack it for a second, because not only was the WWE, our friends here in Louisville this past week, but the UFC was too. They did the doubleheader at the Yum Center. This was one of the deals they were talking about, where they're going to have WWE on the one night of the weekend, Friday, and then the UFC on the next night, and rent the same major arena. And blah, blah, blah. Remember, when they bought the company, they were talking about this synergism. That sounds like a word that Dusty would make up, doesn't it? Synergism.
Once everything's in the flywheel, we think that everything will move appropriately in the flywheel.
Well, they flew two wheels in the same town, and here's what they did. Now, the WWE we talked about when we talked about SmackDown, right? And they had round about 10,000 people, give or take, which, as I mentioned, is half a house in the Yum Center. It's a 20,000 seat building. But I honestly didn't even think about the UFC the next night until it was on the news the following day. The same corporate umbrella, if you will, now. They did 10,000 tickets on Friday night for SmackDown. And at these prices these days, that ain't chicken feed. And then the UFC fight night, the following night, did not only the all-time gate record for a one-day sporting event at the Yum Center, sporting event of any kind, and we're talking about NCAA tournament games, and we're talking about major shit, right? But it was the highest grossing UFC fight night event ever. For the UFC, they did $2.5 million. 19,578 fans sold out. So Louisville did $2.5 million, and in 2 days, the corporate entity sold 30,000 tickets. And what was SmackDown? It was probably only a measly, a piddling, as Aunt Lola would say, $400,000 or $500,000 house, maybe. Who knows? Whatever the fuck it was. But that's $3 million and 30,000 tickets in 2 days in Louisville. By comparison, in Los Angeles, they should have to rent the goddamn Olympic Stadium for a week, shouldn't they? If you go per capita, as the old folks used to say.
How much were tickets?
I don't fucking know, because I didn't check into it.
Jeez.
But apparently, for all the goddamn people I see on the news wringing their hands, or when you talk to people, if you have to suffer through that activity. Oh, times are tough. Times are hard. People are spending hundreds and thousands of dollars on wrestling and fight tickets. Help me. I wrestled with my conscience when we raised ringside in Smoky Mountain Wrestling in 1993, I think, to $10. I'm like, are we pricing ourselves away from the fans?
Well, I guess you could say with this success, they're pricing themselves for those fans.
Who are these people that have all this fucking money when everybody's complaining about everything? I'd like to know. Identify yourself. Show your papers. You know what you need to do if you've got money, don't you? You need to send it to me. That's exactly right.
That's exactly wrong.
At JimCornette.com. I'll send you shit for it. See?
Oh, okay. Well, that's a transaction. That's a little different.
Yes. Here's the thing. If you go to the UFC or the WWE or whatever ease you go to, and you pay money to get in. Once you're out, you've got nothing unless you buy something extra. Then you can take that with you. But you're already out money just for going in there, and all you've got's memories, just memories. But what you get from me is actual fucking existing shit that you can stick on your shelf, or you can read, or you can watch, or you can play with forever if you take care of it for the rest of your life. Now, what kind of fucking value can you place on something you can have for the rest of your life? I'll tell you what. Cheap, that's what, because all my shit's cheap. Not in the way of quality, but in the way of cost. And if you've already got skin in the game and have ordered the Bloody Variant and/or Raw debut, I think the Raw debu's sold out. By the time you hear this, if there's 5 left, I don't know what Hotchkiss is doing. And the 5,000 has already gone to the Crusade for Children, and I thanked everybody on the experience for that. But if you've got skin in the game and are one of those people who have ordered, I will have you know, and you too, Brian, because the past few days, while you've been busy, I've been busy. And the first 150 orders from just 12 days ago have already been signed and packaged and have the feather bottoms are processing them this weekend to mail out to the fine customers, and everybody else will be filled in the next 21 days because we got a plan. Because here's the thing. Remember, Brian, I've told you about the Feather Bottoms ultra careful handling system, the fuck system. Well, they've got another system that they've kind of copyrighted. And also, we're using this so that if people aren't ordering action figures, they just getting the t-shirts or the other items, they don't even have to wait for this onslaught. There's no lag time on those because those get sorted into a different pile. And then when all the stuff gets wrapped up, it gets heaved into the truck, and then it's in transit to its destination. See, we've shortened it to sort, heave into truck, in transit, the shit method. So if you folks would like your merchandise delivered with the new improved shit method, then just order right now at JimCornette.com.
All right.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bore you, Brian. Did I explain the shit method to you before?
I just heard you say whatever you said.
Well, good. I hope you were taking notes.
Well, speaking of notes, I'm assuming you took some notes of WWE Raw this past week.
Boy. Boy, howdy. The Braun Breaker show is what you're talking about?
What I was going to say is there's very little probably to review if we look at your notes other than some pretty interesting stuff.
Well, and I guess the title of this episode was, remember when major big time shit happened on Raw? And now it's kind of like, yeah, it's there. I mean, I know WrestleMania isn't coming up or anything, but have they quit trying? Because they were sold out in Toledo. I mean, it's ridiculous now. It's like, what the fuck are people coming to see as a live event here? It's people talking to you. And then we get a match every so often. Maybe it's just the people that want to see Braun Breaker. You think that's who's selling all the tickets yet? Maybe not. I love Drew McIntyre. He opened the show, right? And when he's in the ring, as soon as he's in the ring, the people are chanting CM Punk. But he's got to talk about what's going on now, and that's he wants to be the new world champion and in 5 days at the Clash at the Castle, and he better be. He better be, because as much as I like Damian Priest, and I know they're going to do something, they're kind of changing the Judgment Day around, and there's a Latino influence, and members I don't know what the fuck, but Damian Priest came out, and the fans in Toledo, for fuck's sake, they whatted him to death. It was good delivery. He's well-spoken. He has a great voice. We want to see him succeed, but when you see him and hear him talk, and then you hear Drew, and Drew's another level, as the kids say, in terms of verbally. I think that's why the people are listening to him and they're reacting to him. And I think at this point, my God, could you get, unless Punk does something in Glasgow to cause Drew to lose again to further that, is there any way in the world that you don't put Drew over Damian Priest at this point? Priest just doesn't seem like the guy, and I think the little people around him are hurting him in perception instead of helping him. Is that a question?
It's a question. I mean, it's an unfortunate thing. I think Damian Priest needs more time with the belt to establish himself as being at that level and needs to be treated seriously. On the other hand, I think Drew McIntyre needs to win that belt in Scotland.
That's why they booked it.
By the way, as we are recording, I just received a press release from Bradley Craig, the historian and the founder of what we're about to talk about. Press release: WWE's Drew McIntyre becomes the first active wrestler to be inducted into the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame for Scotland. And that just happened. I have some photos here. These look quite official. And his induction was witnessed by Glasgow's. I always get it wrong, and I'm so sorry.
See, I don't know. I can't remember now because we've joked about it so much now. I can't. I've bluffed myself. I don't know which it is.
Glasgow's Lord Provost Jacqueline McLaren at a civic ceremony held at Edmiston Hall 2 days before he will challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship at Clash of the Castle, Scotland. He's got to win the belt unless CM Punk...
He's got to win it.
Unless you want CM Punk to have nuclear heat there, where at the very last second he runs out and costs him that belt, and you better have an exit strategy to get him out of that building and out of that country. Unless you're going to do that, he's got to win the belt.
Well, that's what I'm laughing at ahead of time. I'm like, my God, you'd have people climbing over the fucking rail, and Punk would love that. And it actually, the more I'm thinking about it, would be... Remember the footage they got of Jey Uso in France with all the people? They were so happy to see a star that they were waving the lights, and he got them to wave the arms, and it was a great visual, right? You could go the other way. You could make the most goddamn hated fucking heel since Hans Schmidt in Chicago in 52. If Punk just came out there and just shit all over. Oh my God, there'd be fights. They'd have to fight him out of there. People would say, fuck your fucking pussy little LED fucking board. I'm coming over that son of a bitch.
And that's like a classic feud that you talk about from years past. What happened? Oh, they didn't like each other and he came in. And then the one guy got hurt and the other guy gloated about it. And then the other guy got revenge on him. It's just, that's the way wrestling's done.
Yes.
So,
oh my God. All right. But after that, and they made a deal in that where, for absolutely no reason, they could to make a TV match. Now let's see. If Priest says that if Drew will fight Finn tonight, if Drew wins, the Judgment Day is barred at the Clash. But if Finn wins, then they get to sit ringside at the Clash. And that's your main event later on. They had a girls match, long girls match. Sammy, just as an aside, as an FYI for the kids, is still trying to convert Otis and Tozawa and Model Girl. See, to take this more seriously and Sammy to still be looked at as a main event guy, I think he should be telling Otis, look, the other two, they're fucking complete losers. She looks like she's lost and confused 98% of the time, and he's 120 pounds. He looks like a goddamn medical school skeleton. Drop them and then get away from Gable. It just still the two of them. Nobody care. Oh my God. So then they had a 6-man tag team match, Brian, with Dominic and JD and Carlito, because Carlito's hanging around with the Judgment Day because of Dominic and blah, blah, blah. And they fought Dominic's father, Rey Mysterio, and Dragon Lee and Braun Strongman. And at the 9 o'clock hour, that fucking thing was still going on. And yes, Strongman did his run around the ring thing, but at least they don't
do the sound effects anymore.
They don't choo-choo train him anymore. And no, but the highlight of the thing was Liv Morgan comes out to try to pitch more woo at Dominic Mysterio. And she's
trying to what? Wait, say that again?
She's trying to pitch woo.
Oh, okay.
At Dominic. What are you talking about?
The way you phrased that I didn't expect it.
Well, she's trying to be the sultry siren that flirts with him and bats her eyelashes. She's a painted woman wearing the mascara and the rouge. And she is pitching woo at Dominic. That's what they do.
They?
That's what those type of women. That's what they do. And they'll sway a young man's mind when it turns to her fancy. You've heard that. Whenever your young man's mind turns to a girl's fancy, well, then they've got him. You've heard that a million times, probably from Papa last.
Well, I know what you're talking about, but again, I don't know how any of that ties into any of this.
Well, that's because while Liv was out there, she's trying to pitch this woo, and he don't want to catch it yet, but she got knocked off the apron on top of him and landed on the floor and started riding him cowgirl. And before
I shouldn't have fast forwarded this match. I never would have thought that.
Well, no, it actually, that's what happened.
Skinamax.
And before that we could tell whether or not he was in favor of this situation, old Zelina came and jerked her off, or pulled her off of him. And the girls fought, and then that's when Braun Strongman did his shoulder tackle, everybody on the floor, and they beat poor Carly, I believe. Yeah, Dragon Lee splashed Carly off of Carlito.
Why did Zelina do that? Wouldn't Liv have been helping her by taking one of the 3 participants off the apron and humping him?
Well, I didn't even think about it because I didn't care that much. But yeah, the babyface manager came over and saved one of the heels.
From a dry humping. According to your description, I didn't see.
We don't know how dry it was. Now there was no way to ascertain the.
All right.
But anyway, they beat Carlitos. What they did, and then they did the thing was Sammy in the ring and Gable and the Stooges out, and it's again when the group turns on him, I'll watch more closely. But we got Otis versus Sammy out of this.
It's taken a while, isn't it? The Otis turn?
Yeah, it is. And I know that and the people are liking it. And it's the old-fashioned Vince, slow build on television back when he knew kind of what the fuck he was doing. But at the same time, it's for the casual viewer at this point because they're thinking, well, if people have missed a few weeks in between here and there, we don't want to run off and leave them. But we're seeing the big dumb shit, unless we find the reason, the powerful hold that Gable has on Otis past his dim-witted Hoss Cartwright-like loyalty. Did Gable save Otis's fat mother from a burning building? Or is there some deep reason why that Otis is so conflicted and emotional about turning around and slapping this fucking guy? Is what I've said, because finally Gable keeps telling Otis, splash him. He splashed him a couple times, and then he won't splash him again. And then Gable yells at him, so he turns around into a fucking kick. Boom, it gets beat 1, 2, 3. And then Gable jumps on Sammy and beats him up. And he kicks the others out, which I think they ought to do anyway. And then Otis won't hit Sammy. And so Gable just walks away from the guy he's beating on to scream at his friend and slap him twice. The second one was a fucking potato, I believe. And Otis walks away from it and then turns around and charges like he's going to charge again. The people are up. He's going to get Gable. And Gable steps out of the way, and Otis squashes Sammy in the far corner and then picks him up and slams him too. But then he tears his shirt off and backs Gable into a corner, looking at him with a mean face and gesticulating. And then he turns around and walks off. What the fuck? I mean, it's like he's one of the cows in the bulls in the bull riding competition. He just gets randomly pissed and he runs off to the concession stand. Did you see any of this, or have I covered it?
You know, I had it on in the background. I've lost interest in this stuff. I'm waiting for, Gable to just be doing something else. And even if it's just him feuding with Otis, Sammy getting the Intercontinental title, I know the fans there really are into it, but I haven't liked all this stuff since.
Well, Gunther was a dominant singles champion. The Intercontinental title was reputable. And now they put it on Sammy, and he's playing a matchmaker. These two fucking Oscar and Felix. I don't know what the fuck. Every girls' tag team in the company either wrestled or spoke or watched one of the others do one of those things next. And then we came to the almost 10 o'clock hour, but they worked it so that this would be what people would see in progress when they tuned in. Braun Breaker and Ilya Dragunov. And obviously a lot of people were talking about this, and everybody was, this is the thing that, you have to see if you watch this episode. And I was almost in the middle there. I was there. Too much for Ilya. But I ended up liking the match and the finish, and then of course the aftermath of all the occasion when Ricochet decided to stick his future endeavored ass at it. No, they didn't fire him. He quit. He decided he wasn't going to stay. But didn't this mean more 30 years ago when everybody watching didn't already know the guy was leaving? Remember those wonderful days?
Of course it did, because you didn't know anything was happening until it happened. But if you know someone's leaving, now the game is, how are they going to do it? And I mean, if you're going to put someone over on the way out, he did it here.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking is we'll get to it when we get there, but I'm thinking he was trying to work a fucking insurance deal. With a couple of the bumps he took, is like, fuck them. They'll have to pay me to fucking be reconstructed surgically, or I'll sue him for $5 million. 877-50-STEVE. But anyway, so the match with Braun and Ilya was a fight with modern movement, mostly coming from Ilya. And it wasn't Braun's finest hour. I see the green, and it's not, I don't know that it's Ilya's fault, because he was helping him on several occasions that I saw subtly with timing or, when to turn. I think this is Braun having to go a long time with a fast-moving guy that does a lot of intricate shit. And that's the part I think may have gone past him. I don't know why he got off track there, but they built it right. It was Braun Breaker would overpower him, but Ilya would use the quickness and the smarts. And Braun would explode with the ground and pound, but Ilya would stick and move. And right away in the first, they went probably 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes to break or whatever, like always. But I think Braun needs to work on selling more surprised, stunned, off balance, and less hurt, ass kicked, just boom, this early in a match versus a smaller guy. And that's stuff that he still needs experience before he's able to figure out, because some guys, it takes, a lot longer for him to figure everything out than it has him. But I noticed that you can do it when you're a big, strong guy like that, but you're so animated facially and physically. You can sell more of a scramble or a slip or a fucking off balance, or I never expected that, or I can't see, something's in my eye. And you can be even more animated, bumping all over the place without actually looking like you're getting your ass kicked. Can you visually, from all the matches you've seen, understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
I can.
Hopefully Braun can. Somebody show him some tapes of those matches in Brian's mind. He can get them from the internet providers in your walls. But anyway, but then at one point, when they came back from the break, Braun was getting the heat on Ilya, and he went for a power slam, and at first I thought he might be doing the crotch lift and left arm around the midsection. I think I've seen one of the senior Steiners. Have you seen the senior Steiners? One of them do it like that, but then he went to grab the regular grip. It didn't look pretty. And then he's trying the ground and pound elbows to the head that didn't look good. Because Ilya, he was on his face. Ilya couldn't see him or sell him. And Braun, it wasn't looking like he was connecting. And again, one more thing. Ilya makes a comeback and goes for a knee drop off I think it was second buckle. And right as he's coming down, Braun put his arms in over his chest, and the knee drop looked kind of fucked up. And I'm wondering, is that something they tell the kids to do these days? Or did Braun just freak out and like, oh my God, because why would you put your forearms up with a guy knee dropping your chest? You're going to break your arms and his fucking shin. And it looked like that's what he did, except nobody sold anything. But Mike, if you'd have done that to Bobby Eaton, he'd have been freaked out. He'd never want to do a knee off top again. How do they change the target in mid-move now? I see that all the time. They cover up. They're throwing punches and people are covering up, so you can't hit anything. You just have to swing at nothing. And that's why it looks like it. What the fuck? Am I digressing here?
No, I am actually enjoying sitting back and hearing you break down this match.
Well, that's and then Ilya went with 2 German suplexes where he holds the grip, right? And by the way, and I love Ilya. I'm not knocking Ilya. I think Ilya was probably the better worker in this match. Well, without doubt, the more experienced and better worker all around. But I think it's a clash of styles for Braun. This Hurley he has not done these things before, or a lot, maybe. I don't know. But also he does the 2 Germans, and then somehow Braun tried to break the grip, and he Germaned Braun with one leg. He did, and it was great for Ilya. But I think it's early for Braun Breaker to be German suplexed by one fucking leg by a guy half his size. But I said, well, what the fuck? Braun seems lost by this point anyway. And then Ilya beat Braun up some more. And apparently reminded him of a thing or two also. That's why I'm saying this is, I don't know. And that Braun did a clothesline they called a Steiner line, which all the, I guess the people who are 12 or 14 years old, it just goes over their head. They did get a "This is awesome" chant from the people. And then finally, they go out on the floor, and Braun gave Ilya the gourd buster-like move, but dropped his ribs over the edge of the announce desk. And then picked him up and dropped his ribs on the railing. And then picked him up and fucking posted him. And this is where, Ilya, some people accuse it of being too much. He oversells, but he doesn't oversell in terms of Shawn Michaels silly bumping, for Hogan or whatever, right? But he screams in his facials and he's in pain. But here it worked. He was screaming, selling his ribs and shit. And then he got speared. And then he speared him on the floor. And then he fucking, Braun got back in the ring and Ilya beats the count at like 9. And he got speared again. That again, that's Braun Breaker that gets over, is the fucking spear and a spear and a spear. He still needs work on going 15, 20 minutes or whatever. But anyway, so boom, 1, 2, 3. And after the celebration, Braun goes to spear him, as Ilya's on the floor leaning on the barricade. And you can see him doing the spot. Oh, he's going to come and spear him through the barricade. And suddenly Ricochet, who has not been a factor or been seen or whatever, appears flying in off the top of the barricade from the people's side and stops Braun. Boom, and down he goes, and that looked great. And then he drop kicked him over the railing. And there was, hard feelings there. And then somehow, and I'll let you comment on this, they went to a world tag team title match between Miz and Truth and the AOP with Cross and Scarlett and blah, blah, blah as the next thing. In between that and the next time we see Braun and Ricochet. But what'd you think of the match?
I thought the match was good. I really enjoyed it. I'm really enjoying Braun Breaker, and I like Ilya. You always worry about Ilya being a smaller guy, even though he's cut and everything. But the size difference really wasn't the problem here. The only thing I would complain about would be, like you said, I like Ilya, but Braun Breaker probably, in my eyes, shouldn't be having competitive matches with anyone yet. Beyond him, what he can and can't do in the ring, and you broke that down pretty good. They're still building him up, and I know they do a big angle with him on this show. But a big angle after he beats someone without sweating, is a little different than after a long competitive match where the other guy could have won a few times.
Well, yeah, a few times he could have. But here's
and
the
that
thing:
spot over the spot over the table where he dropped him, that was pretty bad. That was
But I will agree with what you said about everything, except I'll leave out the word anyone. He shouldn't be having competitive matches right now. There are, yes, if they put him in right now against one of the top main event guys, obviously it should be competitive. And I think he would shine, and they could still do a DQ or whatever because it's too early to beat him. But the problem is Ilya is new as well. He hasn't really had as much main television as Braun has. So if Ilya was the same person, they had the same match in the same way, but it was Ilya had been here for a year and a half, and people, he was over somewhat. He was known. He's impressed people on multiple occasions. Then it would have been easier to take this, but it felt like they just said, oh, they may have had a good match in NXT or whatever, so let's do this. But that was the problem.
They said that too. By the way, they said they had a whole series of matches in NXT, which obviously we never saw.
Oh, good Lord. Well, and, maybe they had one before I was thinking, but in that case, if they had a series of matches and this was the one they had on fucking Raw, it wasn't that good. I mean, I love both guys and I love Braun Breaker. He's the future, but even Bruce Springsteen, I guess, gets a sore throat every now and then.
Whoa. Yeah, that would do it.
Yeah. But so then should we skip ahead to the next part of this Ricochet effect that Braun had here?
Well, yeah, we're not going to review the AOP versus Miz and R-Truth. I can tell you that.
No.
Is that the worst stable in wrestling? The AOP, Paul Ellering, Karrion Kross, and Scarlett?
And I mean, Paul, I don't know why is he even there, and I love Paul Ellering, so give him some reason, something to do. Let him. Is he?
The one thing he had going for him was his promo. He has not said a word.
He's there. He doesn't interfere. He doesn't get hit. He doesn't hit nobody. I don't hit nobody. Nobody hits on me, nobody.
Well, not hits on him, but hits him. But
Well, nobody hits him, and he don't hit on nobody.
Well, that was the AOP Miz and R-Truth review, but let's go now to after the match. Braun Breaker and Ricochet still fighting.
They're in the back. Well, they're not still fighting. They've been separated, but now they're going to fight again. Because there comes Braun, and they're in the back at the loading dock or wherever, and he spears Ilya through a table or something or other. And then Ricochet gets on him, and they go out in the parking lot. And Braun then beats him up and picks him up, like to recreate in effect, the lawn dart throwing of Rey Mysterio by Kevin Nash, right? That's who it was. In WCW, where he threw him head first into the fucking production truck.
That's right.
But Rey Mysterio didn't take the fucking bump like that. And by the way, poor Jimmy Hart. It was his face. He and Hulk Hogan are on the side of this truck. And he fucking throws him into Jimmy Hart's face. But go back, anybody, and watch this bump and tell me that I don't see any way in the world that Ricochet meant to take not the bump into the trailer, but to bump on the concrete. I don't think that was intentional. I think he hit too hard, lost control of himself, because I don't know why anybody would do this on purpose. I wrote, did he mean to do that? What the fuck? That was the hospitalization bump right there. Then Braun picks him up and takes him up the stairs of the truck and power slams him off the walking stairs of the TV truck into a car windshield. The car bump, or the concrete bump, was worse than the car bump, the windshield bump. The bump that Ricochet took himself off of being thrown into the fucking truck. That's why I'm thinking, is he working a goddamn insurance scam? Is he just, hey, these motherfuckers, I'll fix them. They want to write me off this way. When he throws me in that fucking truck, I'm going to paralyze myself, and they'll have to goddamn pay me for the rest of my life. That's the way I would view preparing to take that fucking bump.
Well, you'll know whenever he has his next match, because his style would completely throw the Lloyds of London defense out the window.
I'm telling, go at any point. Go and look in slow motion, if you will. But even then, the sickening thud, it was not a sound effect that was added. That was nat sound, as they notate on the reels. No, what the fuck? Either Braun pitched him too hard or too fast, or he just completely said, well, fuck this. I'm just going to bounce off that thing, not even try to put my feet under me. Because it was a George of the Jungle fucking moment. So anyway, they took him out in an ambulance, and Samantha Irvin was great, crying, and wanted to ride with him, and they acknowledged that they are together. And she was fantastic. She might have been the best part of the whole thing, because I found fault with everybody else.
After the fact, WWE put up a tweet with an image of Ricochet laid out, breaking after suffering a brutal attack at the hands of Braun Breaker this past Monday on WWE Raw. Ricochet will be out of action for an undisclosed amount of time with upper body injuries. And the rumor is the undisclosed amount of time may be 3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years. Just on first diagnosis. Now, we can see a specialist, but on first diagnosis, we believe he'll be out 3 to 5 years.
You know, the bigger story beyond this angle, which is a big angle to do, even though everyone knows Ricochet's leaving, because otherwise this angle would be to build up him returning to fight Braun Breaker, and it doesn't look like that's happening. But the show hasn't had Cody Rhodes. It hasn't had CM Punk in a while. It's all of a sudden not centered around Braun Breaker, but they're taking someone who's brand new to the main roster. I don't care who watched NXT. It's a different show altogether, even though they share some fans. And they're building the main stuff on the show around him. Even though Drew McIntyre still has his match and everything, it was really about Braun Breaker. Everyone was talking about Braun Breaker coming out of this show. The ratings may go down a little bit as they're building up new stars, but they're building up new stars.
Yeah.
And it's working. I think it's working.
Yeah, and you know what? Here's another thing. They're lame duck anyway, kind of, with the Raw ratings. What's going to happen? Well, you going to cancel us early or whatever the fuck? And remember what Eddie Graham used to...
That's a good point.
Exactly. You know, the ratings aren't going to fucking plummet if they, come out there and have chicken fights. But remember what Eddie Graham used to say, or people used to repeat about Dusty was so over in Florida, but Eddie Graham would try to book him out ever so often because then he could feature someone else, because how do you get over Dusty? Or Jerry Jarrett do the same thing sometime with Lawler. After 10, 12 years, he'd take a vacation or go work Hawaii or whatever. They'd try to get somebody over. How do you get over Lawler with him there? There's an element of, if all of the big stars bombard the show, then how do you get over them? And some people, rise to the occasion, and some people limp across the finish line. But and this show limped across the finish line because guess what? When Drew wrestled Finn, Drew hit him with a fucking kick and beat him 1, 2, 3. So they're barred from ringside, which are the heels offered to do to begin with somehow, for some reason. I don't fucking know.
I really hope Drew gets screwed over, just because I think the outraged Drew McIntyre is my favorite Drew McIntyre.
Yes.
He sells it so well. Just how outraged, pissed he is, and everyone else should be pissed. And
he's indignant. He's grumpy. He's a fuss budget.
And I guess for the record, we'll be reviewing Clash at the Castle on the Experience this week.
Apparently we will, because it's Saturday afternoon, I guess, or is it Saturday morning? I think it's Saturday afternoon at 2. One of these days, they're going to have a fucking major goddamn premium live event Thursday at 3 a.m.
It'll be an interesting test. But with that, Jim, that's the end of Raw. Raw ends at 11 p.m. if you're not going to watch your late local news or Seinfeld on Channel 11. Maybe you just want to go right to bed, a very comfortable night's sleep on a Helix mattress.
Boy, I'll tell you what, Bri, you are exactly correct. You need a good night's sleep. You need a good night's sleep to stay healthy, to keep a good frame of mind and body and soul. You need sleep. You need rest. You need recuperation time. And a lot of people ain't getting that in this high-priced mattress environment. And you may hear behind me right now, it's something I'm about to talk about. As a result of the gardeners are next door. They're mowing the backyard.
See, they're everywhere.
Of the house next door to me.
Told you this would happen.
But because of these high-priced mattress stores, now, ever since the mattress industry merged with the all-night wicker stores to create a mega store, well, you just can't hardly get in these places anymore without spending thousands of dollars. I'm talking ridiculous amounts of money. And you have to lay on old used mattresses that other people have been on with their various DNA trickling from their different orifices. But also, that's if you got the money to go in there to begin with, and they let you in the door and they let you behind the velvet rope, and then you're just on your own to just copulate all over these sample mattresses, probably something they'll end up sending to your house. And then you got to lug it up the stairs. It's a costly and time-consuming process, and you could be laying in somebody's stainage. But our friends at Helix have a different way. Because, see, now, since these mattresses have gotten so expensive in the stores, many people have reverted to sleeping out in their backyard in the good weather. Did you know this, Brian? That's why they're mowing the grass over here, because the neighbors, they just said, fuck it, our old mattress wore out. We can't afford a new one. So we're just going to sleep out in the backyard on that soft, cool grass.
I have a tough time imagining that.
Well, I look at them out there every night in their pajamas, and they kick each other in the shins. One of them has the Jimmy legs. But a lot of people are turning to this, but you don't have to sleep in the grass.
A lot of people are turning to what?
to grass sleeping. And well, what else you got to sleep on your floor?
Is it considered a new thing or a throwback?
Well, it's a new throwback. See?
Ah.
They've thrown you so far back, you've come up around and met yourself the other way, and now you're brand new breaking ground.
Are there any are there any trees involved? Are you just laying in grass where there's no trees?
Well, no, you should sleep under a tree because it'll keep some of the rain and the bird shit off of you. See, the birds don't shit as much when they're sitting there in their nest as they do when they're flying to and from. You could just get hit with random bird shit out in the open because they're flying. They don't care. They let it go like a Delta 747. Just evacuate the shit. But I digress. It's good to sleep under a tree, except in a storm. And then it could be bad to sleep under a tree. But it's better to sleep on a mattress.
That's
See,
right.
That's the thing.
Absolutely.
That's why I'm trying to discourage this new trend of grass sleeping. That you question me. I see you cut up the grass clippings and you spread them out. You've got kind of a padding there also. But you don't have to do that because you can go to our friends at Helix, because the folks at Helix, not only do they make great mattresses that don't contain either grass clippings or fiberglass. There's no fiberglass, and they are fiberglass free. There's no thumbtacks. There's no asbestos. And there's no fiberglass. There may be some syrup of ipecac just added for color. But nevertheless, Helix has mattresses for everybody. Whether you sleep in a strange position or get into strange positions before you go to sleep, you want it soft, you want it hard, you want it firm, you want it for big people, the bigger the better. Or even something for the kids. And they got the long manufacturer's warranties and the 100-night free trials. And the best part is they will send it to you in a hermetically sealed plastic bag inside a box that is manageable for a human being to take to the place that it will then be unboxed and unfurled into the position it needs to be without these shady delivery people coming and trucking a thing up the stairs and knocking Aunt Fanny's picture off the wall. And the best part is, right now, we can save you money because Helix is offering up to 30%. Now, this is bigger and fatter than the discounts of days gone by. 30% off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows. Because what are you going to sleep with no pillows? What are you, a savage? If you go to helixsleep.com/JCE, Helix, Helix, it's like Felix the cat, but get the F out. helixsleep.com/JCE, up to 30% off all the mattress orders and 2 free pillows. Order mattresses for everybody. Every room of the house. Put a mattress in the kitchen. Put it on top of the kitchen table. It could figure into some kind of goddamn weird marital game you might want to play.
Called
or
sleep.
Get all the kids.
It's called sleep.
Well, also, if you're a Mormon and you got 18 kids, or you're one of these people on the reality TV shows that religion prevents you from not impregnating your wife every goddamn 9 months like a fucking brood mare, get them for all 18 kids and just stack them on top of one another. Build something with your hands. If it's the Mormons or the Amish build furniture and have a lot of kids.
Have you ever gone to Amish country?
I've passed through there, nearly hit a couple of horses.
But you never stopped, got some pretzels or anything?
No. I don't like pretzels.
You don't like pretzels?
I don't like pretzels. It's just more fucking dough to eat. Now, the little crunchy pretzels, they're salted, but you can get those in a bag. You don't need to go to any specific geographic region. But otherwise,
dough.
It's just a bunch of mushy dough.
You hate dough. You hate
mushy, stale dough.
You hate the pizza crust. You hate pretzels. Very interesting.
Dough is a support mechanism, not a goddamn main course. And with that, folks, if you need a good support mechanism for your bad back or whatever the case if you say you got a bad sternum, say you've got a bad pelvis, say you've got a bad sphincter, whatever it is.
Why?
It'll feel better
Okay.
on a Helix Sleep mattress. Again, helixsleep.com/JCE, up to 30% off all the mattress orders and the 2 free pillows. If you need more pillows, you can buy them. They're being generous enough. Go there right now. Helix, better sleep starts now.
All right, well, it's time to wake up.
Hey.
All right, well, it's time to
Do what?
I have no transition, so let me do it. All right. Jim, on the topic of weird sounds.
Yes, Uncle Huck.
And weird visions, AEW Dynamite aired last night as we are recording. I watched it this morning before we recorded. And they took place from, where was it?
They took place, they took money from these people.
Hold on, you know what? I got to find something real quick. Where were they last night?
They were in Des Moines, Iowa. And boy, howdy. I don't know if you can't get over in Des Moines. I mean, there's fine folks in Des Moines. I've been there a time or two. But it's not like this is Las Vegas or LA. If you get a cold crowd in Des Moines, you can't impress a lot of fucking people.
Well, I guess they were in Council Bluffs, Iowa for Collision on Saturday.
Oh, good Lord.
And Kosha Irby, who is the COO of AEW, tweeted out, Council Bluffs is home to fantastic fans, a charming city, and a subpar venue partner. For those who chose AEW Collision on TV or in person, thank you.
Wow, wait a minute.
And then someone responded, hold on, superb, I think is what you were going for. And he put a GIF here that says, I said what I said. So the COO put down the venue in Council Bluffs.
I was about to say, the new guy in charge is already knocking the fucking buildings in Iowa. Wait till he starts dealing with the people in fucking Pennsylvania. I think, where is Sioux City?
It's in Iowa, isn't it?
Well, there's two. There's Sioux City, Sioux. There's a Sioux City, Iowa, and there's a Sioux City, South Dakota. I think whatever in the miserable days of WCW, when they were just sending us to fucking places that have never heard of us before. We were on the tour. I think if Sioux City was the home of Ann Landers, then that's the one I think or Deer Abbey, one or the other. That's the one that did well. But we were out in the middle of fucking Midwest for 4 or 5 days in a row. Me, Bobby Eaton, Stan Lane, and Dick Murdoch.
She's from Sioux City, Iowa. Correct.
Okay, well,
Deer Abbey.
We were in a building that was older than Deer Abbey, and that one sold out. But it was these towns, I don't even know what the fuck, when we got there, I swear to God. We got out of the airport and got in a rental car, me and Bobby, Stan, and Dick, and as we're driving to what is supposed to be the highway to take us to downtown, there is the airport motel and restaurant. You know how we knew what it was? Because there was a building that said motel and a building that said restaurant. That was the only signage whatsoever. And that was the only thing I think we saw for the next fucking 10 miles till we got into town. They just put their airport out in the middle of a fucking field. So the point is, this sounded in a lot of cases through this program like they were doing this in a library or a non-crowded theater. Didn't it to the point where there was some echo when Nana would yell, "Whose house?" Empty house.
All I kept thinking was, if I was there and I started making bird noises, I could take over the show. If you just sat in the back and while a match was happening or a promo, that Swerve promo, the crowd went silent. I mean, I know they were listening, but traditionally there are ways that wrestling fans listen and somehow still make some noise or breathe or move or whatever it is.
Well,
if you just sat there and went, and then someone else started doing it, everyone at home would hear you and it would take off and become a thing.
I mean, somebody ought to bring the cartoon recording of the sunrise over the farm. Can
Can you imagine if these fans are like the French fans and singing? They would take over the entire show.
Oh, but they don't care that much. But now here's the problem. There were two different kinds of fan reactions in this same opening promo, and let's explain to the people they don't do a show open or anything. They go cold right into Swerve's entrance with Nana because they thought, okay, we got to hook them. And here's one of the few people we've got that they care about. And Swerve does the promo, and he's talking about our friend Willie Ostrich at Forbidden Door, and the people like Swerve. They were reacting to what he said and listening to other parts, but it was a good promo. It was decent since there's not really anything to talk about otherwise than this is a match they're having, right? It's not a compelling backstory between these two. So, but, he's fine and they're listening to him, right? Well, then when Maddie and Nikki, the Harley Boys, and Cody and Jungle Jackoff interrupt it, and they've got to get the people barely like Okada anymore out of this group, so they got to try to make him look like an idiot. They give it, "It's my house, bitch," that he's supposed to say on the microphone. Is it childish and indie? But when they come out, then the people are either like, we've tuned out. We don't want to hear this. We don't see this. They're not listening. They're not caring. So there's two different reactions to the different sides of this, because then when Swerve did a few things again, people kind of like that, but it's just that big hole in the middle. And have Nikki and Maddie been taking, what is it, the testosterone replacement or addition or steroids or HGH? Why are they just growling on purpose like they think that heels talk?
I noticed that about Matt Jackson more than Nick Jackson, who I think is a great flunky character. I keep saying it. He could bump. He could talk in like a sneaky heel kind of way. He's a good flunky heel. His brother is just go home heat right away, especially now where he's talking like this. And he makes nothing, like the facial expressions feel fake. The way he talks feels fake. Everything they says feels fake.
Everything they says.
So yeah, not good. And the crowd just doesn't give a fuck.
Well, and I agree with you about the flunky thing, but here he's one of the flunkies trying to run this. Imagine if Barney Fife had been the sheriff of Mayberry. Would they have got 8 seasons? No, the classic flunky needs to stay in his flunk house. But the harder they tried, the quieter the people got. And with the growling and this, and then explain to me why that they came out, the heel faction that is supposed to be the top group because they're the EVPs and the big high-priced Japanese import and the little fucking defective sports car that's going to require a lot of maintenance from fucking California. They're supposed to be the top heel group, and they just won the big match against Team AEW, Anarchy in the Arena, even though one of them got set on fire. He's the one who won the match, right? Am I correct in this?
That is correct, yes.
So then why did they come out and challenge some of the same people they've just beaten to the most violent match in AEW, blood and guts? Number one, how could a match be more violent than arena assholes? Because I mentioned the guy got set on fire. And then, why are the heels asking for the ultimate grudge match when they just won the last one 2 weeks ago? Does that make sense? Help me.
I can help you. The other thing is, and I know you've brought it up in the past, And not everything is the first War Games or the second War Games. Not everything is the first 2 War Games. There are other good War Games as well. But there was usually a build.
Number 7 was a real tickle.
But there was a build. I mean, when it first happened, there was a reason for it to happen. Everything kind of built to it happening. This is just all of a sudden they're announcing something that's going to be in a few weeks. There are no opponents for either team. Like, there's 4 guys on one team, and Team AEW is right now empty, except maybe the Acclaimed and Swerve.
Well, but they just had a Team AEW, and then, see, that's the thing. Then the first time that the Buckaroos get a reaction out of the people is when they ask Swerve if he wants to be their 5th man in Blood and Guts, and then the people are like, "Oh, boo! No, for real! No, don't get involved in this. Don't do anything with these people, right? Please pick your friends carefully." That kind of reaction. And then, of course, no, he blows them off because now he's a baby face. He's reformed his baby terrorizing ways. And they had to funny it up by giving him a pair of their shoes. But then Swerve, as I said, blew him off, and Nana threw the shoes out to the crowd. And the people genuinely then reacted with glee and relief that he wasn't going to be involved with them. And then the heels, in the most stagey way, say, "Oh, yeah, see that? You hear that buzzing? That's the injury bug. And it just bit you." And then they start taking their clothes off in a stagey way, not like they're going to film some kind of sick movie or something, but like they're going to strip down for a fight. On the way to the ring, by the way, Nick Jackson had dropped in. "Well, half of the roster isn't here anymore because of us."
That was the funniest line because it was so true.
Yeah, and I don't know whether he meant it or not. I think he was talking in the context. They're not smart enough.
Half the roster and all the draws are gone because of us.
Yeah, but in the context of we put this guy out and we put that guy out, half the roster is gone because of us. I think he was being ironic. Alanis Jackson. And then suddenly the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn come out to save the day when they're going to beat up the world champion, who's the only person they give a shit about in the ring right now. Remember when the Acclaimed were over? Where the fuck did that go?
Again, going back to Blood and Guts, if the Acclaimed are put in that match as 3, the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn as 3 of the participants on the babyface side.
With the world champion?
It doesn't feel like the time push-wise for that. Like, it feels like you're putting them someplace where, I don't know, it's not happening for them right now.
Oh. And then, as the baby faces hit the ring, the heels jump out on the floor, and Christopher Daniels, the new authority whenever Tony doesn't exert his authority, comes out and says, this is basically what he said: "No, we have too many matches on the show tonight to have a fight right now." What the fuck?
Oh, that's not even the most ridiculous thing from him this night.
But I'm just saying, we have too many matches on the show to have a fight right now, so everybody get out of the ring. Well, why haven't they been saying that for 40 fucking years?
We don't have time for this fight. You have to go.
You have to go now. We don't. It's like Fred Lampson, the athletic commissioner in Kentucky. Try that Lawler and Terry Funk are doing the double juice pull apart with 20 guys in the ring. He gets the microphone. He's like, "All right, now break it up, you guys. The fight's over." He wasn't smart. "Fight's over. Break it up." Lawler's like, "If you think it's over, you get your ass in here and try to stop it." So we got too many matches. Everybody gets out of the ring. He sounded like a grumpy lifeguard. Okay, everybody out of the pool. Somebody turned the chemical purple. And then he tells Jungle Jack off to stay and wrestle this man. And they played Dustin Rhodes' music, and they did not fight, and everybody just left in some surreptitious fashion.
Orderly fashion. Everyone's single file now, out of here. Come on.
Don't make me use the ruler.
I know you've always been a fan of his work. I've never really been a big fan of his work. I'm not saying he hasn't had good matches, but I never got it with Christopher Daniels. I certainly don't get it with him in this role. I don't think he's pulling it off. And
well, I don't know how.
It's ridiculous.
How could you make this material better, though? See, that's always the conundrum. Because I will accuse him of sucking when I'm sure that he's sucking. But this material is so bad. How could I make this?
You know what the other thing
palatable?
Is too? Seeing a guy out there as an authority figure with a shirt and tie and no hair makes you think of the biggest show in wrestling where they have a guy just like that. Like, that was the good thing about Bob Armstrong as the commissioner. He didn't look like every other, Jack Tunney. He wasn't in a suit and sitting behind a desk.
He could have been Jacked Tunney.
All right.
See what I did there?
Oh, boy. Yeah. Let's write
well,
that
speaking of jack-offs, that's who's wrestling Dustin Rhodes.
So wait, so that was the opening segment, and at least they started with Swerve, I guess, if that's the biggest audience. If we're going to look at a positive, the biggest audience that's going to see anything that night is likely the first segment, and they got Swerve out there, and they also got the Bucks, who traditionally run people off.
Well, unfortunately, they didn't run Dustin Rhodes and Jack Perry off. And again, poor Dustin, he's a foot taller, he's 50 pounds heavier. He is a real talent. He's amazing at this age still. He hadn't won a match in 3 years that anybody's seen in his fucking company. And we know he's here just to put this jack off over in a ladder match qualifier. Oh, another way, we think suddenly Dustin will catapult himself after all these years of, being wallowed in obscurity. Will catapult himself into the pay-per-view over the Elite's fucking, yeah. And their break spot was Dustin was after a minute, Dustin was bleeding, and Jack had taken a backdrop on bare concrete because they'd pulled the floor pads up, and Dustin's bleeding of buckets, and I don't know what the fuck. I skipped to the finish. Which was, Dustin is selling, he's rolled in, he's barely beat the count, he's disoriented, he's losing blood. And referee Aubrey Edwards, good old Aubrey Ed, helps Dustin to his feet, and then, almost like a heel referee turn, for no reason, turned to the right and walked to the ropes and just turned her back and was looking out. It's something that wasn't there so that Jungle Jackoff could kick him right in the balls. And then she turned back around and was like, oh, nah. And then Dustin is kneeling there, having been kicked in the balls, and he's selling, and then Jungle Jackoff is over in the corner, standing there looking at him, and Dustin looks up at Jungle Jackoff and gives him the finger. And Jungle Jackoff runs at him, and Dustin kneels there giving him the finger, watching him run at him, and he knee lifts him, boom, and beats him 1, 2, 3. If he had the energy to give him the finger, couldn't he just rolled out of the way of the knee lift? Why are all their finishes not only phony looking, but they make the baby faces and the referees look like total idiots? Explain that one to me, Lucy.
As soon as Dustin came out, I was like, oh, Dustin's going to lose another match, and now it's the Jack Perry. And then once you saw them in there, the size difference. And again, not everything, I'm not saying everyone has to be a giant person, but Jack Perry's shorter, and he doesn't have much muscle or much mass, or he just seems like a little guy doing moves. I mean, when I looked at his arms and his weight, like just everything in there against Dustin, Dustin should kill him. Unless he's a black belt. Unless somehow they introduce the fact that he knows how to kill people.
And then, somebody can point to say, okay, well, at one point, the Ricky Morton wrestled the Barbarian. And here's another thing.
And he wrestled like it, and that's how he wrestled, like Ricky Morton wrestling the Barbarian, having to evade him, having to do everything he can, not to hit power high spots on him or anything.
Yes, and also, Ricky Morton knew how to work. And, but nevertheless, that's what happened there.
But I don't think it's working. Again, the audience there reacts a little bit to him. they're not even really reacting hard to this. We've already heard some fans chant CM Punk, but that's been a minority of the AEW audience that we've heard so far. But since they aired that video and brought him back and put him with the Elite, who are hamming it up in what can only be called a comedy stable, a heel comedy stable. It's like Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. It's a heel comedy stable for anyone in on the bad humor.
And if you're not in on the bad humor, then you're out.
Yeah, I don't think it's working, but we'll see.
A lot of people out these days. Speaking of being out, Rush's opponent, Arnold Finster, was out in about fucking 10 seconds, out on the floor. Referee stood and stared. Rush beat the guy up on the floor for no reason, then he beat him up in the ring, and then he beat him 1, 2, 3.
As soon as the match started, I'm thinking, what's the one thing I know Rush, what's his one move I know? And that's throwing people into every barricade around the ring. As soon as he hit the guy and he started rolling toward the floor, I'm like, oh my God, they're going for it right away. This match is going to be quick.
What the fuck? Why do you need to throw the fucking jobber around? And then he got the microphone and said, "You are a weak American, like all the others." That's more like Nikolai Volkov. You are a weak American. I can't talk like Rush.
That's not like Nikolai Volkov. I don't know what that's like.
Well, you are a weak American.
It's like if Nikolai and the Sheik had a baby. That's what it sounds like.
Well, hey, baby. But then suddenly, MJF's music played and he hit the ring and began a fight with Rush. And I'm willing to let them prove me wrong next week, but nothing that I saw here that indicates that when I make this statement, they are going to prove me wrong. Does that make sense to you, Brian?
I don't know. We got to hear what the rest of what you're going to
say. Did I dangle my participles? I'm about to say something and they can prove me wrong next week if they can, but I don't think they will. That's more eloquently put.
And by the way, next week's match is going to be commercial free to start the show.
Well, boy, there you go. So nobody can get suplexed on the bare concrete floor for a break spot because there are no breaks.
Is it commercial free because the network's making it commercial free, or does Tony buy the ad time?
No, I think they're doing some ratings ploy to artificially inflate when you don't have a commercial break. The theory is, survey says, polls show, if you don't have a commercial break over a quarter, that more people will hang with it. You will steadily gain rather than having any fluctuation in the quarter, and you will lead to a higher average. It's all part of the games people play. Games people play, up, down, the ratings will show it.
Do you need some organ?
No, I don't need your organ. You keep your organ to yourself. And that thing too. But when MJF's music hits, right, and they have the fight, and it's the top star in the company that's just returned, that lost the world title not long ago and has been out with injury and just returned and needs, I think, to look strong and try to erase the bad taste, the bad memories, the bad faith or whatever of the devil with the blue dress on and that whole fiasco thing that happened. And Rush is, I'm sorry, regardless of what they think he is or is going to be, he's a mid-card heel that cannot speak. And he's a guy that fucking will not sell for people, or only when it chooses him or when it pleases him, and just beats the shit out of people. I don't like his work, both in terms of its execution and his psychology. I think he looks like he believes he's a star, and as such takes advantage of every babyface he's in with, and works, if they're going to push him as main event guy, which, by the way, that time's been passed. If you're going to come in and establish him as, okay, it's Swerve, it's Rush, it's Moxley, it's fucking MJF, then that time was passed. But he thinks he is because he works that way. And So his matches are mostly rotten. And it makes no sense. Even if MJF beats him, I'm afraid that Rush will beat MJF up so bad and sell so little that the win will hurt MJF because of what the match will look like more than it will help him because he beat some guy that nobody gives two squirts about in the fucking diarrhea category. That's what I want him to prove me wrong about.
See, the problem is MJF is the kind of wrestler who can entertain an audience in a long match, and the pacing of it won't make it ultra competitive if he had to, and he can keep everyone's attention and get reactions. Against Roosh, he's going to be selling for Roosh, you have to imagine.
One would do, whether he wants to or not, from what we've seen in the past.
And you were right. And by the way, you were right. Last week I said he's a heel. He was clearly a babyface here, so you were 100% right.
Also, if you even watch this fight, and again, they both beat up security and went back to fighting and went out in the arena and fought in the stands, and people loved it because it's in the stands and they're crowd surfing, the wrestling equivalent of crowd surfing, fighting in the crowd. And they have a big pull apart in the back of the fucking arena. But if Rush would punch MJF and it came anywhere close to landing, because a lot of his don't, but MJF would sell it or would sometimes register it as if I've been struck somehow so as to continue to further the illusion. But MJF's punching this guy in the fucking forehead and he's just looking at him. Doesn't blink. He just throwing another one. But he's so concentrated on throwing his own fucking punch. He doesn't give a shit about yours. So I don't like this guy. I fart in this guy's general direction. I say his father smells of elderberries.
Hey, come on now. Stop that.
No, I don't like this guy. I would probably, I would be the wrong person for him I would be the wrong person to be the booker for him to advance anywhere in his fucking career. I think his work fucking sucks. Anyway, prove me wrong next week.
Well, we shall see. On the bright side, at least MJF's not yet been pulled into the stuff with the Elite. So you got that going for you.
What? I mean, who does he need to be pulled into something with right now? Who in this company? And I've asked this question before. Remember, there were big MJF Danielson, MJF Punk. And those have all gone away.
You know, I hate to say it because it's been abused almost nonstop since its advent. But MJF's the perfect guy to do a Piper's Pit, a few minutes on each show, until there is something for him to do, as opposed to throwing him back. But again, we'll see where they go. They're starting with Roosh. MJF's a main eventer. There are very limited main eventers right now. You have Will Ospreay feuding with, I guess, Swerve Strickland. And I guess MJF could get into that mix by the time he finishes with Roosh and his very curly hair. We shall see.
Well, and by the way, did you like the way they announced it? Because Daniels was out there earlier saying, hey, quit fighting. Quit fighting. We got too much wrestling on the show. And then when they're going to announce this big grudge match for next week on TV, they just have Sockface say, 5 seconds later, by the way, after they've been pulled apart, it's been made official next week on TV. MJF versus... Did you see the video of Samoa Joe and Hook, apparently from Saturday night's Collision program, beating up the job guys and the job guys manager in their own locker room?
Like all good baby faces do, yes.
And apparently, because the odd man out, because Hook and Joe are beating up the job guys, but the jobber manager needs a counterpart on the other side. So they got Shapoopy is running around shooting with the video camera, Hook and Joe beating up the job guys and the job guy manager. At least Shapoopy will have a career to fall back on after wrestling. And then they had a 6-man tag with Kyle O'Reilly and Mark Briscoe and Pockets against Kyle Felcher and Take a Shit and Roderick Strong accompanied by Don Fallis and Trent and Matt Taven and Mike Bennett. And out of all that, they beat Briscoe. The one legitimate potential breakthrough wrestling star that was involved at this point in this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people involved in that match in one way or another. There's one of them you could actually draw some money with, and he's the one they beat. But anyway, otherwise, obviously, Pockets was in it, so we don't.
You didn't see any of this? You didn't see when Pockets is getting beat up, who made the save? Or who tried to make the save?
Who saved him?
Well, Willow Nightingale's music hit. But before she even got out of the tunnel, she had been attacked by Chris Statlander, and she's getting her ass kicked by Statlander. And then Stokely Hathaway grabs the mic, and he says, "Willow, don't stick your nose in our business." And I'm like, she didn't. She was completely not in your business. She was in someone else's business. And Willow Nightingale is the backup for Orange Cassidy. So this is maybe how Tony's going to back into the mixed tag team title situation. We'll see.
Oh, good God. And put a mixed tag team title on the fucking idiot. Jesus Christ. This is... are we watching now, at this point, that Tony just refuses to give up on any of his favorite toys? Are we watching a young, potentially overindulged little young man over in the corner playing with himself out in front of a fucking dinner party?
There are a lot of people on this show that Tony believes in himself. And I think the problem is that even if you do believe in them, the booking has been so stale around them for so long that them just being there propels the lameness further. A lot of people need a break. I mean, if you really think about Orange Cassidy, your feelings about him and what I think about him and other people.
Somebody tweeted a statistic. He has more wins than anybody else in OVW. Try that again. More wins than anyone else in AEW in like 2 of the 4 years they've been full years in existence or whatever. More, it's insane.
Right, and he's been there since the beginning. He's been featured on that show since the very beginning. And do you think anything's going to happen to cause more people to care now? And less people care now than cared a few years ago. And that's going to probably continue. Is there anything that can be done with Orange Cassidy to make people care? Really care? I don't know.
Yes. I think you can have an old-fashioned fucking mega-gate on pay-per-view if you will find someone to put him in the middle of a racetrack, douse him with gasoline, and set him on fucking fire.
Well, there's a lot of insurance issues with that. I don't know if we're going to be able to...
No, they just did it on the last show. They didn't even have to take him to the fucking racetrack. They did it right in the middle of the arena. I want to put him in the middle of the racetrack because I think they can sell it out.
What if you have a bull? What if you have a bull also?
A bull? But no, the bull's smart enough not to run into the fire. See, you're not dealing with brainiacs here.
Why was that woman wearing a red shirt at the... I mean, that's the thing I kept asking myself. What, is she an idiot? It's the one thing you know. Don't wear red around a bull.
Well, but she wasn't even in the bull arena. She was out at the concession stand. You would have to think that she thought that the bulls at the concession stand would have been fried already.
So you believe it was a case of, hey, Susan, sit down. No, I can't. I'll be over here by the popcorn and cotton candy.
Yeah, I don't see that bullshit. I'm scared of that. And she's standing out there minding her own business. And she was doing fine. And then here came the Egyptian. the party bus.
Party bus.
Party bus. All right, back to this. Because here's a party. The 9 o'clock hour was a Christopher Daniels pre-tape making an announcement.
Oh my God.
Followed by Hook and Samoa Joe attacking the same jobbers that they beat up in the pre-tape on the stage with Shapoopy running the camera. And they threw him into the ring, and the referee rang the bell for a match between... This is the 9 o'clock hour, pre-tape and prelim.
Did you watch that Christopher Daniels announcement?
Yes, I'm going to back up to it in a second, but there was a 1-2 punch that I was astonished that they would give at the top of an hour.
Well, they also had some backstage talk with Samoa Joe and Hook, asking if Taz was a graduate of Syracuse. Is that why he liked orange? So they're telling jokes now in these backstage segments right before they attack and mug the heel undercard job crew.
But Daniels made the announcement in his capacity as an announcement maker.
Did you hear how he started it?
Oh, yeah. What was the
Here's what he
I
said.
didn't write the exact words down.
Here's what he said. And again, this is the interim executive vice president. All of a sudden he turns around and he goes, "Hey guys, I'm back."
Yeah,
that's his announcement. Because that's what Jack Tunney would say. "I'm back. And here's what I have to say. I'm back. I'm back from what? From the earlier segment?"
Well, yeah, and unfortunately, that's what he's probably referring to is like, I'm back out here again. And his way, he was trying to convey, or some amateur producer was telling him to try to convey that, well, I'm back with more big news, but it was just so awkwardly the way it was said. And if the announcers say we're going to pitch to him, not pitch to him cold, in other words, where let's go to the back now with Chris Daniels, but ask him some type of question that required some interaction, then it would have been easier for him to say something effective. Well, guys, my work tonight is not over with, because in addition to what we were just talking about out there before, but it's just so fucking awkward, because they probably did it at 5:00 in the afternoon as a pre-tape. They didn't know what the fuck was going on. But anyway, he announced that next week, Cody and Maddie and Nikki will wrestle in eliminator matches for title shots for their opponents. If the people that they wrestle next week beat them next week, then they get the opportunity to wrestle them again and beat them again. And all seconds and managers and flunkies and cohorts and henchmen and stooges, did I mention that, are barred from ringside, because we can do that in some of the matches, just not all of the matches. But it's our fault when it happens in the matches that we don't do it in, because we've established that we do it sometimes. And that was the 9:00 hour. And then here came Hook and Joe. So the eliminator matches, what the fuck? They're just going to...
And Daniels is just trying to passionately say the crap he has to say.
Yes, that's why I'm saying you don't know whether he's sucking at it or whether it's the shit he has to say, because...
Hey guys, I'm back. Come on, what the hell is that? Hey guys, I'm back.
They're going to... Well, now, Tony, in all fairness, Tony Khan quit saying, thanks, guys. So guys is kind of open. But they're going to have matches next week against people that they're going to beat, because then they're going to be wrestling on the pay-per-view. And we won't have interference. And they're still going to beat them.
The most counterproductive word in AEW is eliminator. The eliminator matches is such a bad concept to say out loud too often.
Who is it eliminating? If these people lose when they wrestle the champions in non-title matches, does that mean that they never ever can get title matches? Would they have ever gotten a title match anyway? Or do they still continue sometimes to get title matches?
It does go to the bigger question. Like in Japan, a title match is a big deal. There may be just a few title matches, you know what I mean? Like you have to work up to it. The guys may be in tag matches, or there may be non-title matches, I guess. But in America, traditionally, you don't have that. The champion would wrestle every night. But in AEW, the champion, you'll see him wrestle and the title's not on the line because of these eliminator matches. It's just it's like a geek thought.
Well, but
that
now,
doesn't
hold
work
on.
in application.
Well, but now some people will be confused about what you said, because in the old days in America, the tradition was the champion worked every night, but you didn't know he was working. Everybody didn't know everywhere the champion was working. They didn't, like we know now and take for granted that everybody would know that the NWA champion defended, 300 days a year or whatever the fuck it was. They've seen the schedules for Flair and Race or whatever. But what the fans knew at that point was that even though the NWA champion was in the magazines, he was wrestling this guy in this town and that guy in that town. He only came to my town every great so often, unless it was one of the St. Louis or a major NWA city. And so you didn't, in the WWF, it was the same way on a smaller basis. Is they might have known, yes, he's defending in Boston and Philly and New York and maybe Baltimore, but they didn't know about Providence and New Haven and et cetera, et cetera. So there needs to be a happy medium somewhere between it used to be a privilege to see the main event guys wrestling to the main event guys wrestle all the fucking time, so it's not special anymore. There's got to be something in between.
You know, I know for someone like maybe Ric Flair, there was a pride in working a long match with George South or, a undercard guy.
But that didn't mean he ought to do it.
But yes. Exactly. And it feels like AEW is filled with a lot of that. And George South was a good wrestler. I'm not saying he wasn't, but it's about the push. It's not about how you work in the ring. It's about the push.
And for people who listen to this program, they know that we're talking. It's about the presentation of you and not whether you can. Would the guy who replaced Steve Perry in Journey would they have had all those hits if he'd have been the original guy? No, he sounds like it's presentation and timing and spot as well as talent. He can sing like him, but it was not the same thing. Anyway, and then Hook and Joe, they beat him up on a stage and they throw him in the ring and they beat him in about 3 minutes when Shapoopy decked the manager and all three of the baby faces put sleepers on all three of the heels.
Shibata left Mark Sterling for dead. Did you see that? He just completely choked him out, just left him there like he was dead. No one ran over, nothing. He just laid there dead.
Well, people were hoping, hey, if we take enough time, maybe nobody can resuscitate him.
What do you think of this stable? Hook, Samoa Joe, and Shibata.
Well, that's again, there's the germ of the seed of something is there, but it never has a chance to grow because of the roundup that is Tony's booking. Samoa Joe mentoring Hook is a great concept. With they have the same combat sports type of approach and blah blah blah. And the young student and the older sensei or whatever the fuck. And then they've always got a clown or comedy some shit up on his program by having Shapoopy, even if you call him by his other name, Shibata, running the camera just because he's got to be in there because he's a member of it. Why is he a member of it? Because Tony, I guess, said be a member of it. But it's something to make it funny or to have somebody else. And it distracts from the main business point you're trying to make with a relationship between Hook and Samoa Joe. And again, yes, these are people for him to beat up or for them to beat up. But why are they going to this lengths at this point in time where when Joe gets him against top guys that really want to fuck with him, what's their response going to be? How are they going to top? Well, let's fucking break into their locker room and beat them up and then beat them up on a stage and then beat them in the ring. Just beat these fucking guys. Be dirty about it. Be dominant. Just beat them up 6 times. Nobody cares who the fuck they are anyway. Do you want to beat up the people they care about like that, for fuck's sake? That'll get you over.
Okay.
Anyway, what do you got to say about it?
I can't really add too much more to this. It's just, it's never felt more minor league in overall presentation. And I mean, it hits me as you're talking about this, but I thought about it all. I've been thinking about it the last several weeks. When you think about it, everything's quiet. You've got that giant stage there. The stage, in terms of square footage, maybe bigger than the audience. The show feels dead. It feels minor league and dead right now. And
wait, here's a. Do you
they
have
don't
the
see it that way.
information? Do you have the information on how many people were in this facility out there in Des Moines, Iowa, where the big boys play?
I don't have the final count, but as of 6:30 yesterday, according to WrestleTix, tickets distributed were 2,854.
Ouch. 2854 given out, and that includes, I guess, the radio station comps, the giveaways, the stuff that went to the dry cleaners.
Debut in the venue.
And potentially Swan Song. Oh no, it was the other building they didn't like. Maybe they didn't like this one either. Do you think Kosha said fuck you to Iowa?
Who said let's do a big tour of Iowa?
Nobody ever, as the kids say.
And not promoted. Apparently, I mean, we heard from a few listeners who said they're from Iowa that it wasn't really promoted well locally, but who knows for sure, so I shouldn't say anything.
Well, how do you get that? They told every cow in town.
And then some guy ran by chasing the cow, trying to throw a rope around it.
How do you get the word out in Iowa? You pass around all the seed could have been imprinted with a poster. All the corn seed could have been imprinted with the lineup of it here. And if you had a microscope, you could see it. Come to AEW.
I mean, the big question is, how the hell do we get out of this specific segment, the 9 o'clock hour or whatever this is?
Well, I'll tell you what we do. We move forward by saying the next match was for the TBS title with Mercedes Moon against Zeuxis. Zeuxis. Ladies and gentlemen, Zeuxis is a short, portly, masked, unknown female wrestler from CMLL in Mexico.
Mexico City.
Mexico City. Right there in the middle.
Arena Mexico. Arena Mexico.
That's where they are. All of them. And apparently from Mercedes' entrance, I can only assume that she was the best pole dancer at the Gold Club at some point in time. What is this? Between the dancing and the fake, gaudy, audacious jewelry, and she was originally intended to be a babyface, but now she's obviously acting like a heel, but they still have kids with signs for her in the audience.
She wrestles like a babyface.
But she wrestles like a babyface against this masked international terror Zeuxis. But you can't really, at the same time, you can't really tell whether Zeuxis is evil or not either. They're just doing moves to each other. It was kind of like watching cheerleading practice, where it wasn't even an actual game, but they could say, no, boost me again, just right out in the open. And that's the kind of, and when Mercedes hit her finish this time, it kind of actually looked like an intentional move this time, just not a finish. And that's what it was. What the fuck is going? Who? National television, and he spent a lot of money for this girl.
Every year for Forbidden Door, they load the show with people that are from other promotions in other countries that fans here are not accustomed to. We'll see how this segment does. Zeuxis.
Can you get accustomed to crap like that in any culture? I guess there are some people around the world that eat live bugs. I know, but.
And the crowd was silent. That's the other thing. They react to her when she comes out a little bit. They're not chanting CEO, because when the chant was going on, I looked and they had a wide shot and you could see people clearly enough on a nice TV if their mouths are moving or not. No one. There wasn't one person chanting CEO.
I read a couple of lips that said, I want a refund.
Well, you have a really good TV.
Well, it's one of those 8K motherfuckers.
The crowd was dead. They had a long match. Eventually, by the end, the crowd was a little bit into it. But it went a long time. The announcers were trying to say the name Zeuxis as much as they could. It's a funny name. And, yeah, the AEW Women's Division. And for whatever we want to say about Mercedes Moné with the act, she'd be the biggest star in Glow.
Isn't that kind of like being the nicest guy in prison?
In an all-female prison with David McClain, yes.
Well, David McClain would fit right in an all-female prison. Now, that line was there, but I don't want him to be offended. And then they followed that up with a video on Maria May and Mina Shirakawa.
Did you see this video?
Yes, I'm looking at I don't understand it. I don't know what the fuck was going on. I wrote that every fan of professional wrestling from the Attitude Era all the way back to the turn of the 19th century just collectively vomited. And then I realized, no, none of those people are watching this shit anyway. But it looked like a fight broke out at a kid's dance recital. This is their Japanese stardom. What the fuck is going on here?
The video opened with her shaking her tits at the camera. And because AEW uses the word tits all the time, I'm going to say them here. She's just shaking them at the camera, and then she talks about how she's sexy and she's a model. And it hit me watching this. I'm like, who is this marketed to?
That's what I'm saying. We got a pretty good idea of who's looking at this kind of stuff in Japan, but who here?
Well, that's
especially on national cable television, wants to see this type of thing.
Because, it hit me again watching this. This obviously isn't being written or marketed for women. It's for male wrestling fans. What does this say? I mean, again, just think about what this whole thing is. Yeah, I don't know.
How?
I will give it to her. She's a very good-looking woman, Mina Shirakawa. And I just saw her on RJ City's show. It was quite humorous.
Well, I don't care how well-meaning she is.
I thought that, again, and then they had the Tony Storm interview in black and white after this, and it's atrocious. And I would say it belongs in Glow, and I know AEW fans get mad when you say this, but it's more reminiscent of like late WCW under Vince Russo. And she's committed to it, and she's really good at this role. And it's completely out of place on a wrestling show. I hate the AEW women's division. It's just not.
But yeah, this is. You remember Fridays on ABC was the answer to NBC's Saturday Night Live, but they didn't have the balls to go head to head. And Fridays occasionally had some good sketches. But this is a late night sketch comedy show parody of wrestling, so whether it be Stardom or Tony Storm's Stardom or Luther or these people that are trying to bump their tits with each other.
Because again, who is this for? This bad acting, this bad segment, all the bad booking behind it, all the things behind it. And everyone's saying, oh, it's really great. Can't you see it's a love triangle? All the bad shit here. When they're sitting and writing it. It's the only
fucking love triangle I've ever seen I wasn't interested in.
When they're sitting and writing it, do they say, who do they think the audience is? Do they think this is for guys? Do they think it's for women? Like, who do they think the audience for this is? Because having sexy women on a wrestling show is one thing. Having them act and just do a bad act, be a part of a bunch of bad acts, what is that then? So I don't know. I'm rambling.
It's bad acting. Speaking of bad act, here's the perfect transition. Thank you for rambling on, Dad, rambling Ricky last, because you bad acting as a transition to the next segment. TV time with the Learning Tree. And remember, Big Bill, we said, wow, not only is his work looking better, but his promos for a few weeks there with Ricky Starks, with his promos, he's standing up for himself. He's showing some, well, now he's back down in the shitter. Because he's doing the same, not as far over the top, but the same kind of disingenuous promo as Jericho. He's Jericho's flunky. He introduces Jericho. He has to act like Jericho's teaching him something. So he's fucking Might as well call time of death on this meaningful career.
At least he has a new nickname.
Large William.
They call them the Redwood.
Oh,
Big Bill.
Jericho's done that for a couple of weeks, but I saw on the internet somewhere, I was reading a recap or something. They said, well, there was Large William. That's what he ought to call him. And then Jericho comes in and sells his T-shirt and tells people in Iowa how to grow corn, and I'm not even kidding. And the people are just staring, either dumbfounded or slightly irritated that this is happening at this point when it might have been enjoying themselves otherwise. And then Jericho brings out Private Party, and they come dancing down the ramp like a bunch of goddamn space alien epileptics, to no reaction whatsoever. I would have been embarrassed to be doing those back bend hops like that one guy was doing, where he looked like he was sticking his own head up his own ass, and the people were just like, who the fuck are these guys? You think maybe they're on the corn liquor rather than the corn out in Iowa?
Private Party have been there since the beginning, too. It's not like they keep getting treated like there's some young new tag team that have just come in. They've been there since the very beginning.
This is the beginning in Iowa, and it may be the end, because they're debuting their swan song. They got no reaction, and then Jericho told them their training was rotten. They got bad basics. I was trained by Stu Hart in Calgary, and I know how to do this. And then Private Party asked Jericho, well, why don't you teach us? You're the Caitlin Clark of AEW. And Jericho then shows them how Owen Hart taught him to climb the top rope. And he climbs up to the top rope so that they can knock him off the top rope. And then they shit-can Brian Keith, who's been standing in the ring there with him. And then they top rope Big Bill, and they dive on both of them. And while they do that, Jericho is flat on his back in the ring, and you see him, he's on camera. They're not even smart enough to cut away from this. He sees where the guy's climbing to the top rope, and he's squirming on his back into the right position, and he's holding his arms up like he's so scared he's going to be squashed. It's like Refrigerator Jax is about to come off the ropes on him. He's fucking scared to death. And the guy comes off with a swanton and goes right over the top of him, never fucking touched him. Busted his ass straight on the fucking mat on the other side. And then the other Private Party, number 2 Private Party, did a backflip splash off the top of the top rope on him, and that one did look fairly firm. And then they just left. So what is he? He's got 8.5 years left on that 10-year contract. Everybody in the company gets to beat him up. What is it now? What the fuck's going on here?
I don't know. When he took that bump on the top rope, on the top turnbuckle, on the whatever you would call that.
Yes,
stuff.
the top turnbuckle there.
Oh, man. That was pretty rough. I was like, man, I didn't think they were going to do that in this segment, which is a terrible segment. This Jericho stuff's awful. He thinks it's good. He thinks he's leaning into what everyone thinks about him. He doesn't realize he's adding a new dimension into what we all think about him, not leaning into it. Not good. Not good at all.
Whew. Well, and also real briefly, they did a package on the plumber winning the IWGP or GTP, the little GTO title. And he's going to defend that against NATO. Why is he mad at NATO? I thought they were trying to keep the peace amongst people, having a treaty.
He'll be wrestling Naito, who you've seen before.
Never mind.
I think you've seen before.
Why do all the top New Japan guys look like unkempt homeless hobos?
As Howard Baum put it, it was the Joy Behar era of New Japan where things started reviving and everyone had a wacky hairdo.
Well, he looks about the same as everybody else does. Except at least Cody stands out with the blonde hair as a tribute to the only member of the Elite that ever drew any money. And then did you see the Guns? The Gun Boys did a promo with Juice Robinson in the back, and it was the best 30 seconds of the show. Just to hear Juice talk again. I'm sure he'll be quickly, sidelined and obscured, but it's nice to hear him back.
He is one of the guys I could say, I wish he somehow left AEW and either NXT or even the main roster as a singles wrestler not aligned with anyone. He has such an amazing energy, especially with the long facial hair and everything, but he's held back by all the stuff around him.
Yeah.
Especially Jay White. But even the Guns, and I like the Guns, but I think Juice Robinson's such a unique character. He should kind of be on his own. He should be in the mix for an Intercontinental Championship, not 1/4 of the Trios champion.
And the thing about him is if you're going to put him in a group, he should be the leader of the group. Here is the man you love, the leader of the band. Anyway, then they had Danny Garcia, who said, fuck it, I'm dropping everything. I'm dropping all these $7 Productions TV shows I've got in the hopper. I'm not going to blow Dwayne this week. I'm going to go wrestle on AEW. And she did.
That's a different Daniel Garcia. That's Danny Garcia.
Danny Garcia.
And that's The Rock's ex-wife. I don't know if she's still doing any, or we can't confirm any sexual liaisons that they're having.
Yeah, the one thing, there were probably, as part of the divorce agreement, was there a blowjob quotient? You get the $35 million and I get the fucking 4 Hummers a year?
Hey, The Rock's your buddy. I'll let you find out.
Well, I'll ask here shortly. But right now, Danny Garcia, you'll never guess who Danny Garcia wrestled on AEW, returning after all these many, many years of being gone. Nick Comoroto of the famous incantation Comoroto Solo a Go-Go. Whenever you said that, you manifested the absolute best in botched wrestling. Comoroto was back. He looks great, still physically. He doesn't look like a caveman anymore. They cleaned him up a little bit. And he got beat in 1 minute by this fucking guy.
I had a thought watching this, seeing Comoroto out there. I was so surprised when Nick Comoroto. I'm like, oh shit, where has he been? He still looks like a big, scary guy. And then you see Garcia stomping the shit out of him.
Yeah.
It was like, imagine someone from 1986, the last thing they saw in wrestling was Hercules Hernandez killing someone. And they went in a time machine. It came back to now. And there's Hercules Hernandez having some skinny job guy just stomp the shit out of him.
Just slap him around like he owed him money.
That's the problem right there, in a nutshell. I said it before, Daniel Garcia needs size, and he does. He needs to drop this stupid dance. Sorry that it's over with the limited fans they have right now, but he does.
I think he needs a face transplant.
But he's so much smaller than Comoroto. Why'd they book this match? There's not a skinny guy in the back he could have beat up? Comoroto looked like Hercules Hernandez against this guy.
You're not a proponent of the face transplant, is what you're saying.
I don't know how possible it is. Shibata, he's the expert in transplants.
No, they didn't do anything with his face. They took top of his head off, right?
Well,
we're talking about peeling the face off.
Yeah, and that wasn't even a transplant. That was they took it out, they put it back in. They returned it. Return to sender. Brain incident.
Return to sender. My brain's unknown.
Well, my brain's unknown too. How much more Dynamite is there?
Oh, there's not much more because the main event was Will Ostrich against Felix for the Intercontinental Breakfast title, and I wrote who knows and who cares. I ain't gonna see the finish anyway because I didn't record the overrun. So they flipped and flopped around for a while, and then things happened.
That's right. There was a lot of flipping and flopping, and the crowd was into it. Ospreay's one of the guys actually over. A lot of it's because of his style, and also I think he actually comes across a little bit like a star, unlike a lot of people there. And they did all the moves you'd expect. Ospreay won, told Swerve it was his house, and they end the show with the tease of Ospreay versus Swerve.
Well, it's not a tease of Ospreay because we're getting that next week, right? Week after?
No,
when is it?
When's the pay-per-view?
Well, week after, I guess.
How many more forbidden doors? How many more forbidden doors can they do if Tony keeps hiring everyone from the other company that appears on the show?
What is the date of Forbidden Door? Well, it's easy. It's easier to unforbid doors when you buy all the doors.
Forbidden Door 2024 is Sunday, June 30th, 2024.
Okay, 30th then. So it's a week after the following week after the next week following the day. So it's a couple weeks away is what we're saying. And that's where they're going to have that, right?
That's right.
And what the fuck are they going to do then? They're going to beat their boy, the new high-priced boy there? Are they going to beat Will Ostrich? Or are they going to beat their champion that they just crowned, that they've already wrung half of the over out of with just the feckless way that he's been presented as a fucking goof in many cases by the booking? And then where are they going to be? And they have MJF versus Ostrich as a money main event in their universe. Nothing else comes close. That's got to be the main event at Wembley. That means that Swerve Strickland better be glad he's got gold teeth on, because it's going to be easier to brush the shit off of his grill when they shit in his mouth on this pay-per-view.
Well, we'll see what happens.
That's the same thing I told Vince McMahon, not Russo.
About his grill?
Vince McMahon, no, about fucking when he was trying to work with Antonio Pena from Mexico and had his fucking champion, who was the goddamn champion at the time, and Vince had him formatted in. We were at his house writing, and he said, well, put him in to do a job for Road Dogg in 6 minutes. I said, Vince, that's the guy's champion. Well, this is on Superstars. I said, well, while he's down there, why don't you just piss in his mouth? Says he, Dad, just take this guy's champion. Don't book him then, but take the guy's champion and just beat him with a guy we're not even using, and then piss in his mouth while he's down there and wipe your feet on him. Send him back to Mexico with his head hung down. I'm sure Pena will love you for that. So they should just piss in his mouth while he's down there.
Well, that was AEW Dynamite, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, due to the fact that the ratings are not in, we will travel through time to retrieve these ratings. Time travel begins right now. All right. That gets you in the mood?
Let that be a lesson to her. If she doesn't do it right next time, we'll do that again.
I feel like this is the way human speech is heard by Tony Khan in his head. These kind of sounds.
The Peanuts parents.
That's right.
Only if it's not complimentary. He hears the compliments just fine.
Well, we are in the future. We will or will not have some compliments here in this segment. We're talking about AEW Dynamite's ratings for June 12th, 2024 on TBS, 8 to 10:06 p.m. Jim, overall, we say it a different way. Jim, the overall number on average.
On average.
681,000 viewers.
Oh, see, again, I had no previous knowledge of these numbers, and that ain't a good number. And that's way down from last week.
According to WrestleNomics, it is the lowest overall number since May 15th, and it is the lowest in the key demo, that's males 18 to 49, since June 24th, 2020.
Ooh, well, they can't say we didn't warn them. What do you expect when you're putting on shows with nobodies doing stupid shit? And the WWE's drawing audiences by putting on stars doing boring shit. But you can't draw any kind of a number putting on nobodies doing stupid shit. Because nobody cares about nobody. Nobody cares for me. Nobody. I ain't got nobodies. That's what Tony's singing. Nobody's in my building, in the arena, in those chairs. Oh, yeah. What's the quarter hours?
I was taking a sip of coffee. Hold on, we'll go to the quarter hours here, Jim. And before we get there, just for the record, the NBA Finals are on broadcast TV. Here are the numbers the last 4 years.
Well, I was about to say, because they keep saying that, well, they're against the NBA Finals. They do these things every year. All of these things that they're against, they do them every year, do they not?
And again, these numbers, that is true. And again, these numbers are going around. We have not fact-checked them ourselves, but we'll put them out there. No one else is saying they're wrong. I'm looking.
Frivolous. Well, nobody's yelling about them.
In 2021, 1,025,000 viewers.
Ooh, okay.
In 2022, 939,000 viewers.
Okay, this is against the NBA Finals.
That's right. In 2023, 903,000 viewers.
Okay.
2024, 681,000 viewers.
Okay. Well, it was dropping, but not precipitously. They only lost about 122,000 from year 1 to year 3, and then they've lost from year 3 to year 4, 222,000 people. Ooh. Must have been a good game.
Well, let's go to the quarter hours, Jim. These were compiled by WrestleNomics. Quarter 1, 8 to 8:15 p.m. The Swerve Strickland confrontation with the Elite. Swerve Strickland's confrontation with the Elite and Christopher Daniels' promo. Dustin Rhodes versus Jack Perry with picture-in-picture. 785,000 viewers.
Wow, okay, they didn't get their big bang, big bump.
No, and no one chose them over the game at all, it appears. We go to quarter 2, 8:15, 8:30 p.m. Continuation of Dustin versus Perry. Orange Cassidy, Mark Briscoe, backstage promo. Roosh versus Dion Russman. And the post-match with MJF, 702,000 viewers.
Ooh, so they started low, and then they still had a big 83,000 person drop from quarter 1 to quarter 2. But it seems like with the average, the good news is at least they can't just fall off a cliff because they're already halfway down.
Well, here's another question. So 2 weeks ago, after the pay-per-view, MJF was not on the show and people expected him to be.
Right.
And then last week they announced him and he was there. He was unannounced, right? They didn't announce he was going to be on this episode, did they?
No, I don't think. He came out. He wasn't in a match. He wasn't in a scheduled interview. He came out in a fit of consternation over what old Rush Boy had done to the job guy.
A surprise appearance in Des Moines to confront Roosh. Quarter 3, 8:30, 8:45.
God damn, when you put it that way.
Quarter 3.
Is that even worth the fucking plane ticket?
8:30 to 8:45 p.m. An ad break. Roderick Strong. Is this the match? Yeah. Roderick Strong, Keshta. I can't speak. Roderick Strong, Takeshita, and Kyle Fletcher versus Kyle O'Reilly, Mark Briscoe, and Orange Cassidy.
Jesus Christ.
687,000 viewers.
And the only surprise is it didn't lose any more than that. What?
Well, the match continued into the next quarter 4, 8:45 to 9 p.m. And then the post-match with Trent Beretta, Chris Statlander, Stokely Hathaway, and Willow Nightingale.
Oh, good Lord.
An ad break, and Rey Fénix's backstage angle. He did an angle?
He did an angle?
I don't remember. 699,000 viewers.
Oh, so they got 12,000 back. Some people must have been, I know their cars wouldn't start. I don't know. All right, go ahead. 9 o'clock hour.
The big 9 o'clock hour. A Shingo Takagi video.
Oh.
Christopher Daniels' backstage promo. Hey guys, I'm back. That's what you want your commissioner to say.
Yeah, remember we were just talking about, I didn't even think about old Shingle.
Shingo Takagi.
Yeah, I didn't think about him because I zipped through that. And then the 9 o'clock hour is this guy, followed by Chris Daniels backstage, followed by more Gaga with nobody.
By Hook and Samoa Joe versus the Premier Athletes, followed by the beginning of Mercedes Moné versus Zeusis with picture-in-picture, 692,000 viewers.
Wow, they dropped. But again, not precipitously. There's not that much further to go, but I'm amazed that people hung on through that.
That is one of the most amazing, here's what we're going to put on the show at 9 o'clock displays ever. A Takagi video into Christopher Daniels, into Joe and Hook backstage. We go to quarter 6, 9:15 and 9:30 p.m. The continuation of Mercedes Moné versus Zeusis. I can't even say.
They had to come back for Zeuxi.
Mina Shirakawa and Mariah May's video.
I still say more people know who Mitsu Arakawa is than know who Mina Shirakawa is.
Tony Storm's black and white promo with Mariah May. And then if you needed something to get people to leave quickly, well, we'll see what happens. The Chris Jericho, Big Bill, Brian Keith private party episode of TV Time with the learning tree at the end of the segment here, or end of the quarter, 671,000 viewers.
There went another 21,000.
What happens when Chris Jericho appears on the screen? People run. So,
well, but the question is, did they come back or did they run for good?
We go now to quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. Jon Moxley and Tetsuya Naito's video, an ad break, the Bullet Club Gold backstage promo, Nick Comoroto versus Daniel Garcia, Will Ospreay's backstage promo, an ad break, and PAC's promo, 618,000 viewers.
Wow. Are we going to finish this thing up below 600 grand? Good Lord, that's...
People saw that Jericho thing at the end of that previous segment and turned off the show. That's what that is more than anything. More than even the women's stuff is the Jericho stuff. Even the AEW fans are saying it. We go now to quarter 8. I remind you, there's a 6-minute overrun. Will Ospreay versus Rey Fenix with 2 picture-in-picture breaks. 626,000 viewers. 6-minute overrun, including confrontation with the world champion Swerve Strickland, 608,000 viewers.
Oh, so they've killed Modern Family now. They killed the Big Bang Theory lead-in. They've killed Modern Family on the...
they've killed Modern Booking. I don't know about
on the outside.
Theory.
They've killed Modern Booking. And the greatest wrestler in the world that they just signed for millions of dollars brought them the 2 lowest, well, no, 2 of the 3 lowest quarters or numbers of the night. Oh, good Lord.
And again, the one person who they've done some damage to with the booking, but still means more than everyone else there in terms of what he's been able to prove, what there are tangible results for, is MJF, and he appeared unannounced on this show in quarter 2, or whatever it was. Was it quarter
and
2?
That was, and yes, and that was still the second highest rated quarter. It was the only other one besides the Open that was over 700,000 people. And they didn't even know he was coming to Des Moines to settle things with Rush.
The Des Moines surprise, they're calling it, ladies and gentlemen. But, Jim, those are the Dynamite ratings. Again,
are they making excuses?
Everyone's making excuses. Everyone who can't face the facts about the booking and the talent and the feel of the show and the formatting of the show and the commentators on the show, the messaging on the show, everything across the board. The people who can't come to grips with the fact that...
How can you pretend at this point? Nobody knows who most of these people are, and they're doing shit that doesn't make any sense, and you can't fucking follow it. Because the most important thing in wrestling is the fans have to know who's mad at who and who's on whose side. And they have no fucking idea over there themselves.
You know, I never thought it was a great idea, ever. the idea of a reboot, like WCW tried it a few times when they were alive, and then when Bischoff was originally going to buy them, they were going to, shut down and reboot. I never believed in that because I think it does damage you can't repair from, you can't come back from. With that said, it feels like, I'm not saying they should, but it feels like AEW needs a reboot. It just all feels lost at sea. And nothing's holding viewers. Their world champion doesn't feel like a world champion because of the way they've booked him. MJF, they're going to take away everything he has that has helped the company because of the way they're booking him and everything that's being booked around him. The crowd energy is gone. You see sometimes someone will put up a clip of the same wrestlers that are there now. 3 years ago, 4 years ago even. Hot crowd. The pandemic even, hot crowd. They had people
and that was from a fever.
They had people really into stuff. Now everything is like Broadway boxing on Madison Square Garden. It's dark. You can't see how many people are there because they don't want you to see how many people are there. Silence. Have you ever heard as much silence?
Idle chatter in the crowd.
I used to watch Global every day from the Sportatorium at 4 p.m. on ESPN. There was no one there. There was no one there. And it was noisier than everything happening with more people in the building for Dynamite. It's a rough show to get through, and there are people who want to pretend. There are people who want to pretend that the talent's good enough. We're all not seeing it. They're not seeing it.
Well, part of the problem is that like a reboot, and I'll make this comment, we'll move on. But if you, like you said, a reboot, if they try to do that, the announcement they need to make is that, ladies and gentlemen, we have hired somebody to replace Tony Khan to run this organization and restore it to its former glory. Because that would be what it would take. But the problem is, for the people that are still there, they like Tony and his shit. Because they're the sickos just like him, the last ones left. And for the people who have left and or the people who never watched to begin with, they don't give a shit if you replace Tony because they're like, what the fuck? They just want to see a good wrestling show.
Well, the other thing is, and you kind of hit on it there, the people there don't want anything to change with Tony in terms of him being moved aside. That's the game where I always say that people need to face up to the facts. He can't do it. It can't be, let's surround him with people who could fix him. That ain't going to happen. He thinks he knows more about wrestling than everyone else. And he doesn't. And he certainly doesn't know about classic wrestling or classic booking or understand it. Or have an ability to apply it. Or reasonable booking and have an ability to apply it.
It doesn't seem like he's ever had a reasonable connection to fucking logic and common sense.
But the problem is he's there, and the people that work for him love him. And why wouldn't you? He's the most wonderful, generous human being on the planet. And I'm not like saying that facetiously. By all accounts,
he is. He's a great guy.
By all accounts, he's a wonderful human being. And he'll use his money, his family's money to help people. He's a good guy. And that's why no one wants that to change, because where in life do you have a boss who doesn't care about making a profit, but has no problem just giving everyone endless things to help them? I mean, it's a wonderful thing.
Well, that's it. In the words of Carrie Silken to me like 15 years ago, what am I running here? Make a wish? Tony really is.
He was. And the answer should have been yes, Carrie. That's exactly what you're running.
You did fly 40 people to fucking Phoenix, Arizona for no reason. But this is Make-A-Wish with, a major budget. And if your wrestling dreams can come true, if no matter whether you have talent or not, if you got a funny costume that tickles a few people on indie shows and you do some good cartwheels and flippy-doos, then you can fit right in and Tony will love you and make you his friend. And then he flies you places on his plane and he fucking pays for this and that and the other thing. And if you don't want to work, you don't have to. But the show ain't going to get any better like that. But I'm sure it's a wonderful place to work.
And I don't know what could help it right now. I don't know what could help the system, what could help the creative and the booking right now, because when you hear things like Bryan Danielson is next in line, that's a scary thought to people who know and have seen certain things on these shows. Could be a fan of his wrestling. There are plenty of people who I really enjoy as wrestlers who I wouldn't want to book. And he's one of them. And Tony's not going to let go of this. Even if you tried to come up with a scenario where he could save face, because that's a large part of it. And take a step back to work on other projects, to spend time with his family. I'll still be chairman of the board and president, but someone else will be taking over as head of creative, as general manager, running day-to-day operations. I can't see him doing it. I can't see him dropping anything else either. And he, it's, and if, and again, with the TV rights renewal around the corner, one way or another, something's going to happen pretty soon. If he gets a good deal, it certainly justifies in his head that he's doing a great job and he continues doing what he's doing. If he doesn't get a great deal, he'll spin it as being a positive. And in some ways, if he can get the right thing, it may be. If AEW went to a purely streaming model, it's not the craziest thing in the world if it got a lot of money. If one of these streaming services threw a lot of money at them just to have this constant streaming content and wrestling fans. But it's a scary thing to make that jump. And, it's obviously, it's a bigger deal still to be on television, but we'll see.
Yes, and they're all young folks over there. They might think, oh, wow, we're ahead of the curve. We'll just be all on streaming. Well, see how many superstars you make over on the stream.
Well, Jim, the other big story coming out of the AEW ratings this week and the overall wrestling ratings, and we've kind of been talking about this leading into this week, NXT. There's more buzz about NXT. I'm seeing more feedback. You got to see this person. You have to see this person. And the problem always is whenever I tune into NXT, it's some other person that makes me change the channel again.
And you can't pronounce the names.
There's a lot of buzz. I actually watched some of the Battleground event. I think that's the name of it. On Peacock, I had it on in the background. And there was some sloppiness, but there was some potential too. I'm not a big fan of the look of it. It's not for me, NXT. But it's something that more people are paying attention to, including WWE. And Ethan Page and Jordan Grace from TNA, made appearances, got a lot of people buzzing. The ratings have been going up. Jim, this is the week that NXT has defeated AEW in the ratings. Now, they put Cody Rhodes on NXT. For anyone who wants to say it's an artificial bump because of that.
And they're allowed to do that because he works for that company. That's what we said 2 or 3 years ago. We said they've got the power to put The Undertaker on if they want to, or this big star, or that big star, or CM Punk now, or whoever the fuck. But at the same time, it's still the number 3 show. But if you go back and look, then a lot of the same people are all across Tony's shows, Dynamite, Collision, Rampage. And now the number 3 WWE show has beaten the number 1 in a AEW show, and that can't be a positive sign.
And again, too, the overall picture, if you look back 5 years ago and look at where both companies are today, NXT was a dark room. It was good stuff, but it was a very dark. It was something that really worked well before AEW, and then AEW brought a lot of brightness and a lot of crowds making noises, and everything was well lit.
Everything they had at the start.
And it was youthful, and it's almost like NXT is now what that was, and AEW is now what NXT was, with some of the same talent, actually, in a lot of cases. Keith Lee, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly. I mean, all those guys are there now. And that's the promotion that's darkly lit. You can't see anything. The fans don't make any noise. And NXT, however superficial or artificial it is, whatever the process to get fans into the building, the performance center to see this, it's got energy and enthusiasm, and you're seeing it from the fan base.
Well, now, what was the NXT numbers? Or what were the NXT? What was the Uncle Huck, the NXT numbers?
NXT on June 11th on the USA Network, 8 to 10:07 p.m. 718,000 viewers on average.
So they not only beat him, but they beat him by 19 and 18 is 37,000 people.
For the record, because a lot of people are pointing this out, AEW did win the night in terms of the key 18 to 49-year-old male demo.
Oh, good Lord. And also they won in lesbian nuns. You got that going for you.
They had, but again, here's the victory. It was a 0.23 to a 0.22. So for those who are like, well, that's the only thing the advertisers look at. Well, NXT was off by 0.01.
Missed it by that much.
But they've beaten AEW now in the ratings. Again, I'm not saying this is going to hold.
Do you have the quarters?
I do have the quarters. You want the quarters?
Well, because AEW started at 785,000 and finished at officially at quarter 8 at 626,000. They lost 159,000 people.
NXT quarter 1, 8 to 8:15 p.m. These were compiled by WrestleNomics. A recap: Kaylani Jordan and Jida Parker live promo. An angle with Mishin, followed by Mishin versus Parker through an ad break. 737,000 viewers.
Okay, that right there would have been the second highest rated quarter hour of the entire AEW show.
Quarter 2, 8:15 to 8:30 p.m. The continuation of Mishin versus Parker, the post-match with the OC, Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne backstage promo, an ad break, Chase U and Ridge Holland's backstage angle, and the New Catch Republic versus Wesley and Gallus, 714,000 viewers.
Where do they get these fucking names? And they lost 23,000 in from quarter 1 to 2, whereas AEW lost 87,000.
Quarter 3, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m. Continuation of the previous tag match with picture-in-picture OTM.
What?
I don't know who that is. OTM, Malik Blade, Idris Enough,
What the fuck is
Brunley
it?
Reese, backstage
Who
angle.
calls anybody? Who calls human beings by these fucking words?
Then an ad break, followed by a Sal Rucka video. 781,000 viewers.
Good Lord. They got within 4,000 of the highest number that AEW started with and gained 67,000 people.
Quarter 4, 8:45 to 9 p.m. Wendy Chu versus Brunley Reese.
Jesus.
A recap, an ad break, Roxanne Perez and Robert Stone's angle, and the start of Cody Rhodes' live promo. 793,000 viewers.
And they gained again because there's dear old Cody. But the point is, quarter 3, NXT was ahead of AEW by 94,000. And then they stayed that way. They were ahead in quarter 4 by 94,000 also.
We go now to the big 9 o'clock hour, 9 to 9:15 p.m., quarter 5. The Cody Rhodes Trick Williams live promo. A recap. Dante Chen's backstage promo. An ad break. Carly Bright, Wendy Chu's backstage angle.
Can they get Chu and Chen together somehow?
And Lexis King versus Chen. 788,000 viewers.
And they are now, they were in quarter 5, they were 96,000 ahead of AEW.
See, this is why I don't watch NXT. There's stuff I'd be interested in seeing. I'd be interested in seeing Lexis King, what Brian Pillman Jr. is doing right now. I don't want to see anyone else I've named so far on this show.
Yes, yeah, that's the problem.
Quarter 6, 9:15 to 9:30 p.m. Lexis King versus Dante Chen continued. JC Jane and Jasmine Nix and Cody Rhodes' backstage angle. whatever. I don't know if everyone uses angle the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
used.
I'm not sure that angle is being appropriately fucking characterized here.
An Eddie Thorpe video, an ad break,
Eddie Thorpe.
the OC's backstage angle, and the start of Eddie Thorpe versus Tavian Heights.
Wait a minute. Isn't that a fucking suburb of Cleveland?
679,000 inhabitants.
Okay,
suburb.
well, and we're not surprised there. Boy, howdy. So they can drop also. They lost 109,000, and they were only 8,000 ahead of AEW in quarter 6.
We go now to quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. The continuation of Thorpe versus Heights.
They went to new lows.
The new quarter catch crew backstage angle.
They're catching quarters now?
Excuse
What
me.
are they doing?
Not new quarter, no quarter. The no quarter catch crew.
No quarter catch crew. So they dropped everyone.
An ad break. A recap. Ava, Robert Stone, and Stevie Turner's backstage angle. And the start of Sean Spears versus Javon Evans. 632,000 viewers.
Ouch. Okay, so this is answering my question. I was going to see if they were halfway consistent, but no, they blew it out of the water for the first 5 quarters, and then they're plummeting as well.
We go now to quarter 8. I remind you, there's a 7-minute overrun, 9:45 to 10 p.m. The continuation of Sean Spears versus Javon Evans with picture-in-picture. Nathan Frazier, Axiom, New Catch Republic. That's all. And then there's all right, I don't know what they did. They did something.
They did something.
The D'Angelo family backstage angle, an ad break, and then something you may have seen a picture of. I don't know. Cody Rhodes, Sean Spears, Ethan Page, and Lexus King backstage. 600.
The gang's all together again.
647,000 viewers, 7-minute overrun. The Roxanne Perez, JC Jane, Jasmine Nix, Lash Legend, Jakara Jackson, Lola Vice angle, 658,000 viewers.
So, all in all, they started at 7:37, and they finished at 6:47 in regulation, 6:58 in the overrun. That's a difference of, 90,000 people. AEW started at 785,000 and finished at 626. That's in regulation, and 608 in the overrun. So that's 185,000 people. But at no time after the first quarter hour did the AEW quarters ever beat any of the NXT quarters. So, yeah, the number 3 show just beat your number 1 show. It's come to this.
And we'll see what happens next week. I don't expect this to hold. I expect AEW to be able to pull slightly more above. But if you haven't noticed, whenever they recover from a dip, the recovery is getting smaller and smaller. Not segment to segment, week to week.
Yes, and month to month, and as we looked at year to year, 1,025,000 to 939,000 to 903,000 to 681,000 against the NBA Finals in 4 years. That's not, the first 3 were fine. This year, I'd be worried.
That Cody segment at the end. Sean Spears, who, if he's not 40, he's close to it, so it's not like he's a young guy needing a break. We've kind of seen him as far as he'll go, more than likely, in AEW and everywhere else. Lexus King, Brian Pillman Jr., he's one of the, it's people like him and Jade Cargill where you could really compare and contrast how they were used in different places. Because they're young. AEW had a shot with both.
Yeah.
And Jade was used very similar to Jade, although now she's a babyface. And they're trying their best to hide what she can't do beyond just 30-second squash matches. Pillman Jr. was flailing. I mean, they didn't take advantage when they had a chance, and then they put him in the Varsity Blondes, which was a Stupid.
Where's old Griff Garrison? Where did he go to? And too soon, none too soon is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, who thought Julia Hart was going to be the breakout star of the Varsity Blondes?
The Varsity Blondes.
But so they have that, and Ethan Page is in the segment too. Ethan Page is someone who, just kind of stayed in place, and everyone stays in place, but he just stayed in place, never really did enough to give him credibility. Start and stop stuff. The crowd reacted to him. He may not be there the next week. And now he's there too. So, I mean, there's a story in that segment.
They portray people to accentuate their strengths and try to eliminate their weaknesses. And even though Jade, classic example, even though on the surface of it, they're doing the same thing. Yeah, they're putting her over. They don't beat her. She pushing her. She's a big star. Tony had no plan. Tony just said, she's going to be Goldberg. We're not going to beat her. She's going to go over everybody. But what did it ever lead to? What money? What big match? What grudge? What program? What classic promo? None of that. And they couldn't train Jade because she was just left out there to flounder. Now the WWE's doing it. Yes, we're pushing her, but we're producing her. We're training her. We have a goal in mind. We've made a tag team with her and one of the biggest stars that we've got. Eventually, they'll probably turn. There is a goal, a destination. It makes sense. It's not just, hey, you give this woman 10 minutes on your TV every week or however often for fucking 2 years and never get anything out of it. It's, yes, this is the plan. We're going to build her up and then use her this way. It's completely different.
There was an image going around, like a compare and contrast. Jade Cargill's last day in AEW, last match in AEW, whatever it was, and the image was the last thing you saw of her. Her crying in the ring, hugging Chris Statlander, who just beat her. Ricochet's last potential moment in WWE is him on an ambulance being taken out of the building. It was just compared to how both companies deal with it, although Ricochet technically is not. Technically, he's still under contract. It's playing out. He just hasn't renewed. And everyone's assuming he's going to AEW, but that could change. And they certainly set it up with that angle for him to come back at some point. If it happens.
Yeah, but against Braun Breaker, give him his comeback to the locker room. It doesn't need to. Ricochet does not need to be in competitive situations with Braun Breaker. They need to keep Braun Breaker on the road to a main event fucking slot.
Well, there it is. And I'm not a fan of the NXT show, so I can't defend it. And luckily, we're not reviewing it because it would be miserable, but
I can't pronounce it.
Those are the ratings. And Jim, this was the drive-thru. We're going to end this thing quick because we have a lot going on. We're back on the experience. We were just talking about that before. It's going to be a packed show. Packed. Who Killed WCW, SmackDown, Hijinks, whoever's doing stupid stuff. Pay-per-view from a castle. Hear that? Wherever you find your favorite podcast. How do we wrap this up? Where's this?
We're going to be in the castle talking about a pay-per-view from a castle.
The drive-thru is closed.
And we're out of ketchup packages.
Who is?
The drive-thru.
Oh. Do you keep extra ketchup packets in your house in case you run out of like a bottle of ketchup?
No, because I don't use that much ketchup anyway.
If you order food and they send ketchup packets, what do you do with them?
Well, you throw them away because you don't know where they've been. But I'll tell you what I did keep in Black Beauty, my beautiful rolling apartment, extra packages of mayonnaise, salt, and pepper.
But
you never
ketchup?
know about that. Not ketchup. I don't eat a lot of ketchup.
You okay. I pictured you as I guess you never really appreciated ketchup, but we have to get out of this show. Listen, the experience wherever you find your favorite podcast. The drive-thru back here next week. You can catch up with the archive. Patreon.com/Cornette, $5 a month, going back to the very beginning in 2013, over 10 years ago. Patreon.com/Cornette. The official Jim Cornette YouTube channel. Go to YouTube and search for Jim Cornette. It'll pop right up. And of course, follow Jim on Twitter at the Jim Cornette. Follow me on Twitter at Great Brian Last. The wrestling news, wherever you find your favorite podcast, and the 605 Superpodcast, the mothership. And of course, the drive-thru is brought to you by the law office of Stephen Pinu. Sorry, Jace, I'm punching my hands in front of the mic. The law office of Stephen Pinu, 877-50-STEVE. Now Jim's doing it. It's catching on. Get even with Stephen at newlawoffice.com. But until we get slap happy on the experience, and next week back here on the drive-thru, for Jim Cornette, I'm the great Brian Last. Tally-ho!